Chapter 3356. Ancestral Sorcerer's Magical Pond. You didn't just take me back from the sorcerer tribe just to tell me this, did you? What do you want? Zhuowen looked at the green-haired mummy and asked. The green-haired mummy sneered and said, What do I want? It's simple. I want the Panga banner on you. Zhuowen sneered and said, The Panga banner has merged with me. You want the Panga banner? Haha. The green-haired mummy said calmly, I have a way to separate your divine soul from the Panga banner, but it will take a lot of time and energy. I'll deal with you after I get the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses from the sorcerer tribe. After saying that, the green-haired mummy waved his right hand and green vines grew out from under Zhuowen's feet. They wrapped around Zhuowen's limbs and tied him to the giant pillar behind him. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He could feel that the power of the green vines was extremely powerful and terrifying. Even his doppelganger, who had cultivated the Pangu's sacred body, would not be able to break free from the green vines, let alone his original body of the human race. You'd better stay here obediently for the time being. After saying that, the green-haired mummy slowly walked out of the room. In an inn in the outer city of the sorcerer god city, Zhuowen's doppelganger, who was dressed in black, suddenly turned pale. Brother Zhuo, what's wrong? Crepe's star sovereign, who was sitting cross-legged opposite Zhuowen, sensed that Zhuowen's aura was fluctuating, so he could not help but ask. No, it's just that my human body ran into some trouble in the sorcerer tribe hall. But it doesn't matter. As long as my doppelganger can make further progress in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, these problems can be solved, Zhuowen said in a low voice. Yes, we can only wait for 3 days. Crepe Star Sovereign nodded. Time flew by, and 3 days passed quickly. On this day, the inner city was bustling with noise and excitement because it was the day that the 12 geniuses selected by the Sorcerer Song Council would enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Crepe Star Sovereign slowly stood up as Zhuowen's avatar opposite him entered the Great World. As for the Great World, it turned into a speck of dust that adhered to Crepe Star Sovereign's body. Meanwhile, Crepe Star Sovereign shot out like a bolt of lightning. The moment Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign flew out, divine wills swept over from every corner of Magus God City. These divine wills were extremely hostile. Crepe Myrtle Star naturally sensed the brazen divine wills. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile as he ignored them. He knew that since he was still in Sorcerer God City, the races that were eyeing him covetously would not dare to attack him openly. However, things would be different after he left the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond and left the Sorcerer God City. At that time, there would definitely be many experts of the foreign races following him because they guessed that he had secrets. After all, Crepe Myrtle Star was only a disciple of a small clan. He did not have a powerful backer or background. A soft persimmon, like him, was the favorite target of others. Soon, Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign entered the inner city and arrived at the guarded ground where the sorcerer tribe's main hall was located. At this moment, the other 10 geniuses who had entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond had all arrived. These 10 people were Wu Xingyuan Wu Xiran, and Wu Wenbin of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Qiutong of the 9-tailed fox tribe, Tu Qian of the moon wolf tribe, Xiu Kong of the space-time beast tribe, Xiang Gui of the giant tortoise tribe, Hu Tang of the black tiger tribe, Long Hui of the dragon tribe, and Jing Shan of the dragon tribe. Jing Shan's expression did not look too good. She already knew that Long Wen had been captured and brought to the sorcerer tribe's main hall. His fate was uncertain. She originally wanted to work with Long Wen to go to the place where Panga fell. However, she did not expect such a turn of events. This made Jing Shan sigh in her heart and blame Long Wen for being so careless. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign also saw another person who was not supposed to be here. It was Feng Bumming of the Phoenix people. At this moment, Feng Bumming was arrogant and his eyes were filled with excitement. His slot was simply a gift from the heavens. Haha, Long Wen. It's really karma and retribution. You cheated me out of a spot, and now this spot has finally fallen into my hands, hasn't it? Fong Bumming laughed heartily in his heart, feeling indescribably comfortable. Thinking of this, Fong Bumming cast a sidelong glance at Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. After entering the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, if there was a chance, he planned to kill Long Wen's accomplice, Zixing, to vent his anger. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's performance in the Sorcerer's Song Gathering had always been average. Therefore, the other cultivators here thought that although Zixing's strength was not bad, there was still a gap between them and Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. At this moment, Wu Wuxian walked out of the Sorcerer tribe's main hall. Behind him were Corpse Ian Marsh, Tiger Sha, and the other 3 clan leaders. These 4 clan leaders had voluntarily stayed 3 days ago to watch Wu Wuxian break Zhouwen's spiritual ring. However, the restrictions in the spiritual ring were very complicated. There were layers upon layers, as if there was no end to them. In 3 days, Wu Wuxian had only managed to break 1/3 of them. Now that the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond was opening, Wu Wuxian could only give up on breaking the restrictions and focus on opening the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. She planned to continue breaking the restrictions after the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond was closed. Corpse Ian Marsh and the other 3 clan leaders also knew how difficult it was to break the restrictions on the surface of the spiritual ring. Even a formation expert like Wu Wuxian had difficulty breaking them. They knew that even if they obtained the spiritual ring, it would be useless if they could not break it. Now, they could only rely on Wu Wuxian. Everyone, congratulations on standing out in the Sorcerer's Song Gathering. Now, I will open the entrance to the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Once you enter, you will be baptized by the power of the ancestral sorcerer. However, there is a time limit. You can only stay for 10 days at most. After 10 days, the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond will naturally teleport you out. As Wu Wuxian spoke, he took out a token and threw it out. Instantly, the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues around the guarded ground emitted white light. They turned into a parabola and swept towards the center. Finally, the white light gathered in the center of the guarded ground and formed a white spiral vortex. The spiral vortex spun at an extremely fast speed and quickly spread out, forming a large circular hole. The 12 of you can go in, Wu Wuxian said calmly. As soon as Wu Wuxian finished speaking, Wu Xinyuan stomped his right foot and rushed into the circular hole. Then Wu Xiran and Wu Wenbin followed closely behind. Seeing the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe enter the hole without hesitation, Wu Qiutong and the other geniuses did not hesitate and rushed into the hole as well. Jingshan glanced at Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign indifferently. She was too lazy to say anything and followed closely behind the crowd. Chapter 3357. Restriction. High Priest, are you really going to let Zixing enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond? Corpse Ian Marsh said unhappily as he watched Zixing disappear into the hole. Wu Wuxian glanced at Corpse Ian Marsh and said, "Don't worry, I'm not interested in Zixing. After the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond is over, I won't care what you do to him, as long as you don't attack him openly in Sorcerer God City. However, correspondingly, I must take the majority of the items in the dragon's spiritual ring." Corpse Ian Marsh and the others looked at each other and nodded in agreement. They also knew that only Wu Wuxian could unlock the restriction on the ring. Moreover, they were in the sorcerer tribe's territory. If they objected, they might not be able to bear the consequences. After Myrtle Star Lord entered the hole, he sensed that the hole had closed the moment he entered. He landed on the ground and realized that he was in a valley. The valley was huge and spanned tens of thousands of miles. It was an unprecedentedly huge valley. In the middle of the valley, there was an extremely large pool of water. This pool of water looked turbid and unclear, as if it was churning in chaos. However, the moment Wu Xinyuan and the others saw the pool water. Their eyes lit up. The energy in the pool water was too rich. It did not seem like the energy of the heavenly path. It was more like another type of energy of a higher level. Above the pool, white, vein-like lines floated in the air, directly connecting to the distant sky above the valley. It was as if these lines had become a medium, transmitting some kind of powerful energy from the sky into the pool water. Those are the corpses of the ancestral sorcerer. Fong Bumming raised his head, his eyes full of shock as he looked at the end of the lines that were derived from the pool water. 3 incomparably huge corpses, which seemed to cover the sky and the sun, were quietly suspended high in the sky. Yes, this is the foundation of our sorcerer tribe. 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses. These 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses are Xianming, Rushu, and Changliang. This pool water is a baptismal pool formed by the power of the ancestral sorcerer. We only have 10 days to be baptized in this baptismal pool. You'd better not miss this great opportunity. Wu Xiaoran proudly introduced the baptism pool in front of him, his voice filled with pride. Wu Xingyuan didn't say a word, and his gaze was cold and indifferent. He took a step into the baptism pool and started to circulate his cultivation technique. He relied on the energy of the ancestral shaman to start baptizing the blood, tendons, and bones in his body. When the others saw Wu Xingyuan taking the lead, they all jumped into the baptismal pool, one after another. They only had 10 days of time within the ancestral shaman miraculous pond. In other words, they only had 10 days of time to undergo the baptism, and they couldn't waste it, especially after entering the baptism pool. The rich energy surged towards them from all directions, making them feel comfortable and refreshed from head to toe. All the geniuses who had entered the pool were pleasantly surprised. In fact, there were even some geniuses who felt that their bottleneck had loosened during the process of the baptism, so they hurriedly began cultivating, hoping to make a breakthrough with the help of the baptism. Crepe Myrtle Star was still the last to enter the baptismal pool, but he was quickly stopped. "Sai, you don't have the right to enter the baptismal pool." The ones who stopped Ziwei Star Sovereign were Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin. The two of them looked at Ziwei Star Sovereign mockingly. Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin's actions immediately attracted the attention of the other geniuses in the baptismal pool. Fong Bumming's lips curled into a hideous grin. Then he burst into unbridled laughter filled with mockery. Tu Qian of the Moon Wolf clan, Wu Qiudong of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, and the other geniuses remained silent and watched coldly from the sidelines. Boring. Wu Xingyuan glanced at him indifferently and didn't care much. Instead, he closed his eyes again. He knew why Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin were targeting Ziwei Star Sovereign. It was all because of Wu Wuxian's orders. Although Wu Wuxian had promised Zhouwen to allow Ziwei Star to enter the ancestral shaman miraculous pond, he had secretly ordered Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin to stop Ziwei Star from undergoing the baptism. If necessary, it would not be impossible to directly destroy this purple star. Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin were sure that Ziwei Star would be enraged. When that happened, they would have a reason to eliminate Ziwei Star in one fell swoop. Ziwei Star Sovereign's eyes were cold. Just as he was about to make a move, his expression changed, and he held himself back. He retreated a few dozen steps from the baptismal pool and sat on a large rock. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged. Coward! Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin sneered and withdrew their attacks. They knew that there would be plenty of opportunities to deal with Ziwei Star Sovereign. There was no reason for them to make a move now. They focused on absorbing the energy of the baptismal pool. As expected of Long Wen's friend, you really have guts. If you can swallow this, there will be nothing you can't swallow in the future. Ha. Fong Bumming laughed loudly. Tu Qian, Wu Qiudong, and the others secretly shook their heads and ignored Ziwei Star Sovereign. It was a waste of time for them to care about such a coward. Ziwei Star Sovereign's eyes were as calm as water. He seemed to be meditating, but in fact, he was communicating with Zhuowen through divine thought. Brother Zhua, why did you stop me just now? If I were to make a move, other than Wu Xingyuan, no one else would be a match for me. Ziwei Star Sovereign said with some dissatisfaction. Just now, when Wu Xiuran and Wu Wenbin were provoking him, Ziwei Star Sovereign wanted to make a move. However, he was stopped by Zhuowen, which made Ziwei Star Sovereign feel unbalanced. Brother Ziwei, we have time to deal with these people, but we came here to do business. I need to get close to the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses. If I'm not wrong, the 3 corpses should be surrounded by powerful restriction formations set up by Wu Wuxian. I need time to break the formation. It's unwise to start a conflict with these geniuses now. After I break the restriction formations around the ancestral sorcerer corpses and find what I need, it'll be time for us to make a move. In the macro world, Zhuowen sat cross-legged in the pavilion of the island in the lake and calmly communicated with Ziwei Star Sovereign through divine thought. Ziwei Star Sovereign could only nod and agree. He said through divine thought, "In that case, I'll bear with it for a while. You go and check the ancestral sorcerer corpses." As soon as Ziwei Star Sovereign finished speaking, a speck of dust on his shoulder gradually floated up in the anti-gravity state and slowly approached the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses above the baptismal pool. Wu Xingyuan slowly opened his eyes and looked blankly at the sky above the baptismal pool that was covered with lines. For a moment, he actually felt a wave of fluctuation above the baptismal pool. Although the fluctuation was very weak, he was still keenly aware of it. Chapter 3358. I'm Zhuowen. Was it just my imagination? Wu Xingyuan muttered to himself. He extended his divine consciousness to sense the fluctuation just now, but he realized that there was nothing. In the end, Wu Xingyuan shook his head. After confirming that it was just his imagination, he focused on immersing himself in the baptismal pool and quickly improved his strength. Wu Xingyuan's divine sense is quite sharp. He sensed the fluctuation when the great world entered the baptismal pool. A speck of dust floated a few hundred meters above the baptismal pool. Zhuowen, who was in the great world, looked serious. However, after Wu Xingyuan stopped paying attention to him, he continued to control the speck of dust that was the great world. Soon, Zhuowen was tens of thousands of meters above the great world. At that moment, the corpses of the 3 wizard ancestors were very close. However, when the speck of dust formed by the great world approached the corpses of the 3 wizard ancestors, it was blocked by an invisible and transparent energy. Zhuowen knew that this was the restriction set up by Wu Wuxian. He controlled the great world and circled the corpses of the 3 wizard ancestors a few times. After careful observation, his face became extremely serious. He roughly observed and found that there were 81 restrictions set up around the corpses of the 3 wizard ancestors. Moreover, the level of each restriction was basically at the Heaven Ascension level. The wizard tribe is really cautious about these 3 wizard ancestors. They set up so many restrictions. Even if an ordinary Heaven Ascension Divine Formation Master were to come here, he would be helpless against such complicated restrictions. Zhuowen observed for a while and frowned as he shook his head. However, Zhuowen was not an ordinary Heaven Ascension Divine Formation Master. His formation Tao was inherited from the true record of elixir formation, the work of the Celestial Alchemy Formation Master. His level was far superior to other formation Tao masters of the same level. Moreover, Zhuowen had the ultimacy Hongmeng Wuji. This ultimacy specialized in breaking restrictions. Coupled with his level of formation Tao, it was not difficult for him to break the 81 restrictions. After understanding the 81 restrictions, Zhuowen was not in a hurry to break them. Instead, he controlled the great world back to the shore of the baptismal pool and returned to the shoulder of the Star Sovereign. Brother Zhua, why are you back so soon? The Star Sovereign, asked in surprise. The restrictions are quite the great world. For me, they're not much. Therefore, I plan to get rid of the people here who are in my way first, and then slowly look for what I need. Zhuo Wen replied. The Star Sovereign's eyes, was calm. He had been holding it in for so long and was very sullen. Now, Zhuo Wen's words made him feel much better. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's laughter naturally alerted the other 11 geniuses in the baptismal pool. Was Star Sovereign, Star Wu translation Wu, and Purple Star, translation, Star, translation, and translation, what? Now he actually dared to laugh out loud. Was he intentionally trying to disturb them? Translation, Star was translation to be. I wanted to let you go, but you disturbed my cultivation. You deserve to die. Go to hell. Wu Xiran and Wu Wenbin jumped out of the baptismal pool at the same time. They rushed towards the Star Sovereign like 2 bolts of lightning. Terrifying gales swept out. The surrounding time and space seemed to flow in reverse. Wu Xiran and Wu Wenbin were very strong. They were both at the early stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. When they joined forces, they could fight against an expert at the intermediate stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. Wu Qiutong and the others looked at Wu Xiran and Wu Wenbin in surprise. They felt that the 2 of them were making a big fuss. They were too cautious. The Star Sovereign snorted. He stomped his right foot and punched at Wu Xiran. He did not care about Wu Wenbin behind him. This idiot is trying to hit a rock with an egg. Wu Wenbin could not help but laugh when he saw the Star Sovereign attack Wu Xiran. He had given up defending himself. But soon, Wu Wenbin felt that something was wrong. When his attack neared Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch, a very bad feeling rose in his heart. He actually sensed an extremely terrifying energy behind Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch approaching him. Suddenly, a spiral vortex appeared on the Crepe Myrtle Star Lord's shoulder. A powerful fist energy blasted out from the vortex. The moment the fist and palm collided, Wu Wenbin felt that he was as small as an ant in front of the fist force. Then his right fist exploded into a bloody mist. Wu Wenbin screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He flew back with his broken right arm. The moment he flew back, Wu Wenbin saw the fist force in the vortex disappear. A figure walked out. He was too familiar with this figure. It was Long Wen, who had been captured by their high priest. But how was this possible? How is this guy still alive? Right when Wu Wenbin's thoughts were running wild, Long Wen stomped his right foot and vanished on the spot as if he'd teleported. When Long Wen appeared again, he was already very close to him. So fast! Just as Wu Wenbin thought of these 2 words, Zhuo Wen's terrifying fist force blasted out again. It turned into a dense barrage of fist shadows in the air, all of which bombarded Wu Wenbin's body. Puff! 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 The terrifying fist shadows landed on Wu Wenbin's body. Puffs of bloody mist burst out. It looked miserable and ferocious. Wu Wenbin's consciousness was blurred. The pain in his body was numb. When he forced his eyes open, a huge fist became bigger and bigger in his eyes. Finally, it blasted between his eyebrows. Intense pain assaulted him. Then Wu Wenbin's vision turned completely dark. Puff! Wu Wenbin was almost instantly killed. He fell to the ground and his divine soul was destroyed. Not long after Wu Wenbin was killed, Wu Xiran also screamed. His body was torn in half by the Star Sovereign. His divine soul was destroyed and his corpse was badly damaged. The moment Wu Xiran and Wu Wenbin were killed, all the geniuses in the baptismal pool opened their eyes. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Wu Xiaoran and Wu Wenbin had just made a move, and they were killed in an instant. This purple star sovereign was too terrifying. But soon, they saw another figure beside Wu Wenbin's body. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This was because they were not unfamiliar with this figure. Instead, they were all too familiar with it. This was because he was Long Wen, who was captured by the sorcerer tribe. This. What's going on? Could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me? Why would this dragon text appear here? Fong Bumming rubbed his eyes hard. The moment he opened his eyes, his neck was grabbed tightly by a big hand. Then he was lifted out of the baptismal pool. His feet were suspended in the air, and he kept swinging. Now, come closer and take a closer look. See if you're seeing things. Zhuowen lifted Fong Bumming. His tone was as calm as water, but in Fong Bumming's ears, it was so cold that he trembled. It's really you, Long Wen. Fong Bumming's eyes widened, and his voice was sharp. Fong Bumming, I have another surprise for you. My original name is not Long Wen, but Zhuowen. Zhuowen suddenly sent a message to Fong Bumming with a smile. Fong Bumming's body trembled. He stared at Zhuowen and blurted out, "You're Zhua." Chapter 3359. Clean and tidy. Bang! Zhuowen casually threw Fong Bumming's body aside and looked disdainfully at the rest of the geniuses in the baptismal pool. Standing beside Zhuowen, Crepestar Lord looked coldly at the geniuses who had mocked him. His gaze was as cold as frost, making the geniuses feel uneasy. Wu Qiutong, Tu Qian, and the rest of the geniuses were dumbfounded. They looked at Zhuowen with their mouths slightly agape. They could not believe that Zhuowen had sneaked into the ancestral sorcerer magical pond. Wasn't he captured by the high priest Wu Wuxian? Jingshan, who was in the baptismal pool, looked at Zhuowen with surprise. She did not expect Zhuowen to enter the ancestral sorcerer magical pond. What an incredible guy! Wu Xingyuan slowly stood up from the baptismal pool. His calm gaze was filled with frost. The killing intent was like a mighty pressure, spreading out with a rumble, instantly filling the entire valley. Long Wen, how dare you kill the geniuses of the sorcerer tribe? Wu Xingyuan was furious. His voice fluctuated and was extremely stern. An extremely vast and terrifying aura surged out of Wu Xingyuan's body. The entire baptismal pool began to boil. Countless turbid liquids surged out like angry dragons, spreading in all directions. Wu Xingyuan was in the middle of the berserk liquid. His long hair fluttered like a peerless demon god. Wu Xingyuan has released his killing intent. Long Wen is in trouble. Tu Qian from the Moonwolf clan hid to the side and looked at Wu Xingyuan solemnly. He originally thought that the gap between him and Wu Xingyuan was not too big, so he had always regarded Wu Xingyuan as a competitor. But now, after Wu Xingyuan released all his aura, he realized that he was too naive. There was no doubt that Wu Xingyuan was terrifying. He was much stronger than he had expected. Just the aura alone made Tu Qian feel that Wu Xingyuan was unreachable and terrifying. Tu Qian knew that if he were to fight with Wu Xingyuan now, he would definitely be defeated. As for that Long Wen, he admitted that although his strength was not bad, but at most it was on par with him. He naturally did not think that Long Wen would be a match for this Wu Xingyuan. Brother Zhua, let me deal with this Wu Xingyuan. Purple Star Sovereign took the lead and stood in front of Zhuowen, intending to fight Wu Xingyuan. Brother Ziwei, I'll have to trouble you then. I still need to settle some old scores with a few people. Hold off Wu Xingyuan for a while. Zhuowen nodded, his gaze falling on Hu Teng and Long Hui. Back then, there were a total of 5 races that had ambushed him and slandered him. They were the Ghoul race, the Phoenix people, the Dragon race, the Black Tiger race, and the Merfolk race. Shi Fu from the Corpse race and Fong Bumming from the Phoenix people had already been killed by him. Meanwhile, the genius from the merman race had been eliminated by Jingshan and was not qualified to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Only Hu Teng of the Black Tiger clan and Long Hui of the Dragon clan were left on the baptismal pool. From the moment Zhuowen entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, he had no intention of letting these two people go. Hu Teng and Long Hui naturally felt Zhuowen's unfriendly gaze. Both of them immediately put on alert and stared at Zhuowen. The scene of Zhuo, when domineeringly annihilating Wu Wenbin earlier, was still vivid in their minds even now. Their strength was on par with Wu Wenbin. Since Long Wen could easily kill Wu Wenbin, it was naturally more than enough to deal with the two of them. Bang! At this moment, Wu Xingyuan and Purple Star Sovereign clashed violently. Terrifying energy ripples burst out, giving rise to a blazing and glaring light that spread in all directions. Thump! 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 Both Wu Xingyuan and Purple Star Sovereign retreated dozens of steps. However, Wu Xingyuan was obviously at a disadvantage. His face was pale. Wu Xingyuan was shocked. He stared at Purple Star Sovereign and said in a deep voice, "Your cultivation is actually at the late stage of the sky-piercing master?" All the geniuses in the baptismal pool were shocked. They couldn't believe Wu Xingyuan's words. A mere disciple of a small clan, Purple Star, was actually at the late stage of the sky-piercing master. This was equivalent to the strength of their respective clan leaders. How was this possible? When Wu Xingyuan was at a disadvantage just now, they naturally saw it with their own eyes. Wu Xingyuan was a mid-stage sky-piercing master expert. His strength was much stronger than the average mid-stage sky-piercing master expert. Only a late-stage sky-piercing master expert could suppress him. Since Purple Star could make Wu Xingyuan fall into a disadvantage, it was obvious that he was a late-stage sky-piercing master expert. Long Hui and Hu Teng were dumbstruck. They were truly terrified. With Long Wen's strength and Purple Star's late-stage sky-piercing master expert, they were going to crush all the geniuses present. Come out and die. Zhuowen stood at the edge of the baptismal pool, looking at Long Hui and Hu Teng. Long Hui and Hu Teng looked at each other. They could see that Long Wen wanted to kill them, so they could only fight with their lives on the line. In any case, they were both early-stage, sky-piercing master experts. When they joined forces, their strength was not bad. Long Wen might not be a match for the two of them. "You die for me." Hu Teng and Long Hui rushed out, splitting into two directions, and flanked Zhuowen. One in front and one behind, they cooperated well. Long Hui's entire body emitted a blazing light, and a powerful and terrifying dragon shadow appeared around him. It was as if he was a giant dragon that had existed since ancient times. Hu Teng was enveloped by a huge tiger shadow, like a huge tiger coming down the mountain to hunt. The tiger's roar shook the sky, and the wind was bitingly cold. A dragon and a tiger intertwined with each other, with the power to destroy heaven and earth. They quickly surrounded Zhuowen and slammed into each other. Instantly, it was as if a dragon and a tiger were fighting. A terrifying explosion erupted in the surroundings, and Zhuowen was at the center of the explosion. The power was vast and mighty, completely drowning Zhuowen. Hee, this kid is dead for sure. In the midst of Long Hu's explosion, Hu Teng and Long Hui looked at each other and smiled. Under their combined attacks, they didn't think that Long Wen could survive. "So this is your final attack? Hee, you can't even withstand a single blow." An indifferent voice rang out from the center of the explosion. Then a figure slowly walked out. Hu Teng and Long Hui sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw the figure. The figure was none other than Zhuowen. The mysterious light of creation circulated around Zhuowen's body, resisting the terrifying explosion around him. His body was unscathed, and there was not a speck of dust on him. "Retreat!" Hu Teng and Long Hui knew that things were not going well. They quickly retreated, wanting to get away from Zhuowen. Unfortunately, how could Zhuowen let them do as they wished? Zhuowen clenched his hands and used the sky-splitting blade, Ultimacy. A dazzling, white blade shadow appeared in each of his hands. Whoosh! Chapter 3360. Escape Puqi. Hu Teng and Long Hui were directly penetrated and nailed to the ground. They struggled, but could not break free. Ever since he advanced to half-step 8-star, the might of Zhua Wen's sky-opening blade had once again risen by a level. Wanting to block this sky-opening blade with just Hu Teng and Long Hui was simply wishful thinking. Zhuowen slowly came in front of Hu Teng and Long Hui and looked down at them indifferently. Long Wen, we have the Dragon Race and Black Tiger Race behind us. If you don't want to die, it's best not to offend us. Don't kill us, or you will regret it. Long Hui shouted. He smelled the scent of death. You want me to regret it? With the Dragon Race and Black Tiger Race behind you? I even killed Shi Fu of the Corpse Race and Feng Bumming of the Phoenix People. 2 more of you won't make much of a difference. Die for me. Zhuowen sneered again and again. His hands formed sword fingers and quickly pointed at Long Hui and Hu Teng's forehead. Puqi! Long Hui and Hu Teng's forehead exploded with bloody holes. Then their vitality completely dissipated into nothingness. After Zhuowen killed Long Hui and Hu Teng, he noticed that the battle between the Purple Star Sovereign and Wu Xingyuan had reached its climax. Although Wu Xingyuan had been at a disadvantage in the beginning of the battle with Crepe Myrtle Starlord, he had been at a disadvantage. But later, Wu Xingyuan unleashed the power of an 8-star wizard body. Coupled with the cultivation of a mid-stage Tongtian Lord, his strength actually rose by a large margin. He was actually evenly matched with an expert like Crepe Myrtle Star. It was precisely because the battle between Wu Xingyuan and the Purple Star Sovereign was too earth-shattering. The attention of the other geniuses was all attracted by the battle between the two and ignored Zhuowen. As a result, they did not notice that Zhuowen had killed Hu Teng and Long Hui. This Wu Xingyuan is really extraordinary. He is actually evenly matched with Brother Purple Star. Zhuowen's eyes were grave. He knew how powerful the Purple Star Sovereign was. Although Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign had just advanced to the late stage of the sky-reaching Master Realm, he had obtained the inheritance of the Undying Bird. His battle prowess was earth-shattering. Back then, the Phoenix Master of the Phoenix People, Feng Lilua, a veteran late-stage Heaven Ascension Master, was only able to suppress the Purple Star Sovereign. It was simply impossible for her to kill him. However, Wu Xingyuan was only a middle-stage Master of Heaven, yet he was evenly matched with Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch. From this, one could see how powerful Wu Xingyuan was. Zhuowen knew that with Wu Xingyuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch's condition, it would be impossible to determine the victor if they continued to fight. Zhuowen took out the Ho-E Divine Arrow and Ho-E Divine Bow. He knocked the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring to 3/4 of an arc rumble. A thunderous sound exploded in the air. The Ho-E Godly Arrow and Ho-E Godly Bow suddenly exploded with a terrifying sound, bringing with them shocking killing intent. This killing intent was too terrifying. Like a tide, it instantly flooded the entire valley. The other geniuses who were originally focused on the battle between Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch and Wu Xingyuan all sensed this killing intent. Their gazes fell on the Ho-E Godly Arrow and Ho-E Godly Bow in Zhuowen's hands. That's the Ho-E Godly Arrow. Long Wen actually has such a treasure. Wu Qiutong blurted out when she recognized the Ho-E Godly Arrow. This guy doesn't just have the Ho-E Godly Arrow, he also has the Ho-E Godly Bow. This guy's luck is too great. He actually has the complete divine artifact of the most powerful Wu Hui. It's extremely powerful. He's going to support Purple Star. Tu Qian of the Moon Wolf clan said with a grave expression. The remaining space-time beast clans Xiu Kong and giant turtle clan Xianggui didn't dare to speak at all. They looked at Zhuowen with fear. This was because not only did they notice the Ho-E godly bow and Ho-E godly arrow in Zhuowen's hands, but they also noticed the dead bodies of Long Hui and Huting not far from Zhuowen's feet. It hadn't been long, but Long Wen had already killed Long Hui and Hutung. This was too efficient. Wu Xingyuan, who was fighting with Purple Star Monarch, also felt the terrifying killing intent. This murderous intent was like a tidal wave, sweeping over from all directions, drowning his entire being, as if it had blocked all his escape routes. The pressure was so strong that Wu Xingyuan immediately began to retreat. Unfortunately, Purple Star Monarch wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He suddenly stepped forward and entangled Wu Xingyuan, making Wu Xingyuan an obedient target for Zhuowen. Whoosh! The moment Wu Xingyuan was entangled by Purple Star Monarch, a terrifying air-piercing sound instantly resounded. Then Zhuowen released the bowstring, and the Ho-E godly arrow pierced through the sky, instantly arriving in front of Wu Xingyuan with unparalleled killing intent. Wu Xingyuan suddenly shouted, clenching his right hand into a fist and punching out. The air exploded, and a powerful airflow accompanied by energy formed an extremely terrifying phantom behind him. This illusory figure was the illusory figure of a giant. It was at least 10,000 zhang tall, and it shook the heavens and earth. The terrifying pressure formed a terrifying storm that crushed down on the entire valley. Boom! The moment the fist collided with the Ho-E godly arrow, an extremely terrifying explosion erupted. Pucci! Unfortunately, the Ho-E godly arrow was too terrifying, and it tore apart the giant phantom behind Wu Xingyuan. Moreover, the godly arrow pierced through Wu Xingyuan's right arm in a spurt of energy, causing his right arm to explode into a cloud of blood mist that was annihilated in the void. Wu Xingyuan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was unbelievably pale. Purple Star Monarch took advantage of this opportunity to instantly approach Wu Xingyuan. Clenching his right fist, he ruthlessly punched Wu Xingyuan's chest. Wu Xingyuan raised his other arm, as if he was about to block Purple Star Monarch's attack. Unfortunately, he was too hasty, so his left arm was fractured, and he rapidly fell down like a meteor. Long Wen, I will remember you. I, Wu Xingyuan, swear that I will not rest until you are dead. The moment Wu Xingyuan fell into the ground, he took out a golden talisman and crushed it. With a whoosh, the moment the talisman was crushed, Wu Xingyuan instantly disappeared from the valley. It's an escape talisman, and an extremely advanced one. Purple Star Monarch landed at the place where Wu Xingyuan fell, and his eyes were solemn as he spoke to Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded and put away the Ho-E godly bow and Ho-E godly arrow. Wu Xingyuan deserved to be called the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe. He was so powerful that even Purple Star Monarch could not take him down. In the end, he and Purple Star Monarch joined forces to severely injure him. This made Zhuowen think highly of Wu Xingyuan. The world of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond is self-contained and isolated from the outside world. No matter how powerful Wu Xingyuan's escape talisman is, it is impossible for him to directly tear apart this small world and leave here to reach the outside world. Wu Xingyuan should be hiding somewhere in this small world. Should we go and search for him? Purple Star Monarch looked at Zhuowen and asked in a deep voice, No need. I still have important business to attend to. Wu Xingyuan will eventually come across us. When that time comes, I will kill him. Zhuowen shook his head and said, Chapter 3361. 3 venomous insects at this moment. Only 2 Qian from the Moon Wolf clan, Wu Qiudong from the 9-tailed fox clan, Xiang Gui from the giant tortoise clan, Xiu Kong from the space-time beast clan, and Jingshan were left in the baptismal pool. Apart from Jingshan, the other 4 geniuses stayed far away from Zhuowen. Their eyes were filled with dread as they looked at Zhuowen. Jingshan walked to Zhuowen with a smile and said, Fellow cultivator Long, you really hid your strength well. I didn't expect you to have such powerful strength. Jingshan underestimated you. You are indeed the person I chose. Fellow cultivator Jingshan, I still have some things to do. I will discuss with you about the teleportation formation after I'm done with it, Zhuowen said and pointed to the baptismal pool next to him. The ancestral sorcerer power in the baptismal pool is very strong. You can cultivate in the baptismal pool during this period. After saying that, Zhuowen looked at Tu Qian and the other three, who were not far away with fear in their eyes, and said, Fellow cultivators, I attacked just now because the three geniuses of the sorcerer clan were too overbearing and wanted to kill me. Since they bullied me, I, Zhuowen, am not a pushover, so I returned an eye for an eye. As for Hu Tang and Long Hui, it was because their clans wronged me first, so I took some interest from them. I have no enmity with you, so I will not target you. You can continue with the baptismal pool. I will take my leave first. Zhuowen smiled kindly at Tu Qian and the other three, then flew to the sky above the baptismal pool. Although Zhuowen was decisive and ruthless, he was not stupid. The Sorcerer Tribe, Corpse Ghost Tribe, Black Tiger Tribe, Dragon Tribe, Phoenix Tribe, and Mermaid Tribe had openly opposed him and even made a move on him. They already had great enmity with him. So Zhuowen naturally wouldn't be nice to these 6 tribes. He would kill if he could. However, the Moon Wolf race, Nine-tailed Fox race, Giant Tortoise race, and Space-Time Beast race had not done anything to Zhuowen, nor did they have any enmity with him. Naturally, Zhuowen would not become enemies with these 4 races for no reason. Although he was confident that his Pangus sacred body had improved further and his strength was invincible, he would be courting death if he offended the top 10 races of the untainted heavenly realm at the same time. After all, the Wu tribe alone was enough for him to deal with. Tu Qian, Wu Qiutong, and the others looked at each other. They still found it somewhat hard to believe that Long Wen would actually let him go just like that. Tu Qian was very decisive. He understood Zhuowen's intentions. He knew that Zhuowen didn't want to offend them and the races behind them. So he jumped into the baptismal pool and began to cultivate to his heart's content. Entering the ancestral shaman miraculous pool and being cleansed by the ancestral shaman energy was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to them, and he wouldn't let this opportunity slip away from his hands for nothing. Wu Qiutong and the other 2 also came to their senses and understood Zhuowen's meaning. They no longer had any misgivings and jumped into the baptismal pool. However, in their hearts, they were certain that they would never casually provoke Long Wen in the future. Otherwise, they were afraid that they would be in big trouble. After all, Long Wen had repeatedly exceeded their expectations. Not only did he use some means to sneak into the ancestral shaman miraculous pool, but even the number 1 genius of the Wu tribe, Wu Xingyuan, was defeated by him. It was really unbelievable. When Jingshan saw Zhuowen rushing toward the baptismal pool, she thought of something and said in a deep voice, Taoist friend Purple Star, is Taoist friend Long planning to get close to the 3 ancestral shaman corpses? Purple Star Sovereign glanced at Jingshan and said lightly, Taoist friend Jingshan, you'd better go back to the baptismal pool to cultivate first. Brother Long has his own purpose. We don't need to care about this. Jingshan frowned slightly. She was a little anxious. She wanted to follow Long Wen and see what he was doing. However, Crate Myrtle Star was watching her closely. Just now, she had already seen the powerful strength of the Purple Star Sovereign. She knew that even if she used all her strength, she might not be able to escape from the Purple Star Sovereign. Moreover, she would offend the 2 terrifying experts, Zhuowen and the Purple Star Sovereign. After thinking about it again and again, Jingshan sighed and returned to the baptismal pool. However, she did not relax her divine sense and kept observing Zhuowen in the sky. Not only Jingshan, but Tu Qian and the others who were cultivating in the baptismal pool also separated a part of their divine sense and kept observing Zhuowen. They were also curious about what Zhuowen was up to. When Zhuowen approached the 3 ancestral shaman corpses, he noticed the divine sense of Jingshan and the others. A mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He took out the beast bone array disc and set up a huge divine sense shielding array below him, blocking the divine sense of Jingshan and the others. Then he began to crack the complicated restriction on the surface of the 3 ancestral shaman corpses. This guy is also a divine array master. He actually set up a shielding array. Moreover, this shielding array is of a very high level. It's definitely not simple. Jingshan muttered to herself with a solemn expression. After discovering that Zhuowen had casually set up a high-level shielding array, Jingshan was unable to calm down for a long time. She could not see through Longwen anymore. The strength that Longwen displayed was far beyond her expectations. Moreover, this guy was also a divine array master with such a high level. It was simply unreasonable. Tu Qian and the others were also shocked. They retracted their divine sense, one after another. They knew that their divine sense had been discovered. If they continued to recklessly investigate, they would only make Longwen unhappy. Time passed slowly. 2 days later, Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes. The beast bone array disc that was hovering above him turned into a huge, impactful whirlpool and violently blasted on the restriction on the surface of the 3 ancestral shaman corpses. The restriction looked like fish scales. It actually formed layers upon layers of fragments that gave off dense light spots. It looked extremely gorgeous and dazzling in the air. Boom! 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 In the end, the restriction on the surface of the 3 ancestral shaman corpses collapsed and were annihilated into nothingness. The huge explosion caused by the collapse sent Zhuowen flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was extremely pale. Fortunately, Zhuowen had set up a defensive formation around him in advance. It blocked the impact caused by the explosion of the restriction. Otherwise, Zhuowen would be even more miserable than he was now. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Zhuowen looked at the 3 ancestral shaman corpses that appeared in front of him with bright eyes. Zhuowen stomped his right foot and landed on one of the ancestral shaman corpses. This ancestral shaman corpse had the face of a human and the body of a tiger. It was covered in golden scales and had a pair of wings on its shoulder blades. It had a snake piercing through its left ear and 2 dragons under its feet. It was Ru Shou, one of the 12 ancestral shamans. Unfortunately, Ru Shou had already become a cold corpse. The 2 dragons under his feet and the fierce snake piercing through his left ear had already fallen. They had become cold corpses without any signs of life. Zhuowen's blood was boiling. The moment he approached Ru Shou, he sensed the aura of the ancestral shaman goo. It was the goo inside Ru Shou. However, Zhuowen was not in a hurry to capture the goo. He could sense that the goo in the 3 ancestral shaman corpses should be in a deep slumber. The ancestral shaman had fallen so long ago. If the goo wanted to survive, they could only choose to sleep to reduce the consumption of energy. Zhuowen knew very well that if he were to capture them now, the ancestral shaman goo would awaken and flee with all their might. When that happened, he might not be able to capture all of them. Chapter 3362. Complete. Subjugation. Zhuowen had set up 3 heaven crossing trapping formations and 7 creation trapping formations. These 10 formations complemented each other and formed a cycle. They were like an indestructible wall, powerful and terrifying. After doing all this, Zhuowen stood on Rush's body again. He gently cut his finger and fresh blood dripped down. Then Zhuowen calmly stood in place and waited quietly. He knew very well how tempting his Pangu's sacred body's blood was to the ancestral sorcerer goo worms. The sleeping ancestral sorcerer goo worms in Rush's body would definitely wake up and crawl out after sensing the Pangu's sacred body's blood. Sure enough, Zhuowen soon sensed the aura of Rush's goo worms. A bloody hole suddenly appeared on Rush's chest. A tiny black shadow, like a slender black lightning, streaked across the air and instantly arrived at the spot where Zhuowen's blood was dripping. Whoosh! What surprised Zhuowen was that other than Rush's goo worms, the goo worms in the other 2 ancestral sorcerer corpses also crawled out and rushed toward him like two bolts of lightning. For a moment, the three goo worms began to crazily compete for the drop of blood left by Zhuowen. Bang! 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 The three goo worms fought fiercely. The powerful energy ripples forced Zhuowen to retreat. Zhuowen looked at the scene in a daze. He did not expect a drop of Pangu's sacred body's blood to be so tempting to the ancestral sorcerer goo worms. It was beyond his imagination. But soon he realized that this was a wonderful opportunity. The three goo worms were not simple. They were very powerful. If he wanted to subdue them alone, he would not be able to do it in a short time. However, if the three goo worms fought each other and both sides were injured, Zhuowen would be the fisherman. The process of subduing them would be much simpler. Among the three goo worms, other than Russia's goo worms, the other two were Xianming goo worms and Qiangliang goo worms. However, in the process of the three goo worms fighting, Zhuowen could clearly see that the Rushu goo and the mysterious nether goo were suppressed. Rushu grasped the power of metal, Xianming grasped the power of rain, and Qiangliang grasped the power of lightning. Qiangliang goo was extremely powerful. As it flew, lightning punishment was unceasing. Lightning bolts filled the surrounding space, forming a terrifying and powerful lightning domain. The power of lightning was too terrifying. It was even more terrifying than the power of gold and rain. Thus, Xianming and Ru Shou, these two goo worms, were heavily suppressed and their bodies were covered in injuries. Ru Shou goo and Xianming goo realized the strength of strong good goo and joined hands to deal with strong good goo. 2 against 1, they could only fight to a draw with a strong goo worm. Zhuowen stood far away, silently observing all of this. He did not make a move, but tried his best to conceal his aura, not intending to let these three goo worms sense his existence. Boom! 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 Suddenly, the three goo worms collided fiercely. Strong good goo was ultimately no match for Ru Shou and the Xianming goo. It was covered in injuries and was sent flying, losing most of its combat strength. Ru Shou goo and the Xianming goo did not take advantage of the situation to pursue. Instead, they immediately attacked each other, fighting for the drop of Pangu's sacred body blood. Zhuowen quietly appeared the moment Qiangliang goo was repelled. His palm suddenly shot out and grabbed Qiangliang goo in his hand. Strong good goo's body was covered in lightning, but unfortunately it was too weak. The power of lightning it released could not do much damage to Zhuowen. Zhuowen did not spend too much effort to subdue strong good goo. After imprisoning it, he threw it into the macro world. At the same time, the fight between Ru Shou goo and the Xianming goo reached a climax. Both goo worms were exhausted and gradually fell into a decline. In the end, Ru Shou goo was slightly better. It sent the Xianming goo flying and madly pouncing on the drop of Pangu's sacred body blood. Unfortunately, just as the Rushu goo reached the drop of blood essence, the blood essence was retracted by a palm. As for the other palm that blotted out the sky, it slammed the Rushu goo to the ground. Ru Shou goo screamed and was hit hard on the ground. It struggled with difficulty, but still could not get up. It was too tired. After subduing Ru Shou goo, Zhuowen chased after the Xianming goo, which realized that something was wrong and fled. Unfortunately, the Xianming goo was in a bad state. Zhuowen caught up with it and almost killed it with one palm strike. He then caught it and threw it into the macro world. Phew! Finally, I have completely subdued these 3 ancestral sorcerer goo. This time, the Pangu's sacred body has hope of advancing to the 8 stars. Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly as he muttered to himself excitedly. Zhuowen did not immediately refine the 3 ancestral sorcerer goo. Instead, he removed the formation in the air and directly put the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses into the macro world. Although Zhuowen's main goal was the ancestral sorcerer goo, the energy in the corpses was still enormous, although there was not much left. Zhuowen planned to put the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses in the macro world to constantly nourish the macro world and perfect the rules of the macro world. After doing all this, Zhuowen slowly landed on the shore of the baptismal pool. When Zhuowen put away the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses, Jingshan, Tu Qian, and the others who were originally cultivating in the baptismal pool realized that something was wrong and suddenly opened their eyes. This was because they found that the energy in the baptismal pool was rapidly dissipating and eventually annihilating into nothingness. In other words, the baptismal pool had become a pool of wastewater with no energy to speak of. However, they soon found out why the baptismal pool had become like this. Their gazes all fell on the sky above the baptismal pool. They saw that it was empty. The 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses that were originally floating in the sky had disappeared. Everyone in the baptismal pool was stunned. They did not expect that the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses would disappear without a trace. Fellow Taoist Long, you took away the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses? Jingshan was the first to react. She looked at Zhuowen on the shore and asked in horror, Fellow Taoist Long, this is the foundation of the sorcerer tribe. You actually took it away. I'm afraid the sorcerer tribe will do their best to hunt you down. I advise fellow Taoist Long not to do anything stupid. Tu Qian shook his head and advised Zhuowen, even if I didn't take away the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses, the sorcerer tribe will not let me go. Since that's the case, why should I be so indecisive? If anyone is dissatisfied, you can express it. If you are willing to stand up for the sorcerer tribe, then I, Longwen, will accept it, Zhuowen sneered. On the other hand, Jingshan's face was gloomy. She looked at Zhuowen with a complicated gaze. She knew very well how complicated the restriction around the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses was. It was a complicated restriction that Wu Wuxian had spent many years to set up. However, Longwen had only been there for a few days, and he had already cracked it and taken away the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses. This was really terrifying. Chapter 3363. Teleportation Formation Tu Qian, Wu Qiutong, and the others looked at each other, not daring to answer Longwen directly. Although they tried to persuade Longwen to do so, they would rather not stand up for the sorcerer tribe. Zhuowen had shown such powerful strength just now, and they knew very well that if they were to go against Zhuowen, it would be like striking a stone with an egg. They were simply courting death. Even Jingshan fell silent. She could not see through Zhuowen, so she did not dare to offend Zhuowen, let alone stand on the opposite side of Zhuowen. Seeing that everyone was silent, Zhuowen shrugged, looked at Jingshan and said, How many days have passed since we entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond? Jingshan said in a deep voice, For days. In 6 days, we will be teleported out of this space. There is still time. Since it's like that, then take me to that place, Zhuowen said. He had an agreement with Jingshan that there was a teleportation formation in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond that was suspected to be the place where Panga fell. Jingshan had sensed Panga's aura on Zhuowen, so she planned to join forces with Zhuowen to activate the teleportation formation. Come with me. Jingshan nodded and led Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star out of the valley. However, before Zhuowen left, he warned Tu Qian, Wu Qiutong, and the others not to follow, or else he would not be polite to them. Tu Qian, Wu Qiutong, and the others naturally did not dare to follow, and they all agreed to follow. No matter how bold they were, they would not dare to go against Zhuowen, because that was simply courting death. Wu Xingyuan and the others were the best examples. After Jingshan led Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star out of the valley, they flew for half an hour outside and arrived at a forest that shone with bright starlight. The space where the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond was located should be a different dimensional space built by the sorcerer tribe. Everything in it was against common sense. This forest defied common sense because on the surface of the tree trunks grew not ordinary leaves, but resplendent starlight. Jingshan landed in the depths of the resplendent starlight forest. Over there was a very ordinary pond. The water in the pool was clear and transparent. It was precisely because this pool was too ordinary that it seemed out of place in the starlight forest. In the depths of the pool, there is an underground cave. The teleportation array is hidden in the underground cave. Jing Shan pointed at the pool and said, "Fellow Taoist Jing Shan, how did you find such a secretive place?" Purple Myrtle Star Monarch asked with a strange expression. "As I said before, I have a special ability. I can sense Panga's aura. When I first entered this space, I sensed Panga's aura. I followed that aura and found the underground grotto under the pool," Jing Shan said. Zhuowen sneered in his heart. He knew that Jing Shan was just making things up. However, with his current strength, he was not afraid of Jing Shan playing any tricks in front of him. After all, if they could really find the place where Panga fell, it would definitely be a great surprise for Zhuowen. "Let's go in." Jing Shan glanced at Zhuowen and simply dived into the pool. Zhuowen and Purple Myrtle Star Monarch looked at each other and followed closely behind. Although they did not completely believe Jing Shan's words, they knew that following her was the only strategy they could use. The pool was very deep. The three of them dived for half an incense stick's time before they finally found a tunnel at the bottom of the pool. Following the tunnel, they finally entered the underground grotto mentioned by Jing Shan. The underground grotto was very large and gave people a sense of spaciousness. After entering the underground grotto, Jing Shan led the way without saying a word. Since Jing Shan did not say anything, Zhuowen and Purple Myrtle Star Monarch naturally did not try to start a conversation. Soon, Jing Shan stopped and pointed to the front. "This is the teleportation array I was talking about." Zhuowen looked in the direction Jing Shan pointed and saw an open space in front of them. On the open space, there was a large circular pattern drawn. It was blood red in color and seemed to be drawn with blood. Around this formation, there were 12 bone spears. At the end of each bone spear, there was a skull inserted into it. The 12 skulls were grotesquely shaped and did not belong to the human clan. However, from the strong aura emitted from the skulls, it could be seen that the owners of the 12 skulls were definitely powerful experts in their previous lives. Zhuowen's gaze turned solemn. The moment he saw the 12 skulls, Zhuowen thought of sacrifices. These 12 experts should have been sacrificed alive to this array when they were alive. Although it was a long time ago, the bloody aura lingered in the air for a long time and was filled with an ominous feeling. This array was definitely not simple. Zhuowen had never heard of an array that required sacrifices. This was the first time he had seen one in his life. However, Zhuowen was an array master after all. He could see that the pattern of the blood-red array was indeed a teleportation array. Moreover, it was a very advanced teleportation array. However, the way this teleportation array was used made him very uncomfortable. "Fellow Taoist Jing Shan, you have never opened this teleportation array. Why are you so sure that the destination of this teleportation array is the place where Panga fell?" Zhuowen looked at Jing Shan in confusion and asked the question in his heart. "I said that I felt the strong aura of Pangu. Even if the other end of this teleportation array is not the place where Panga fell, it must be something related to Pangu. As the founder of this starry sky, anything related to Pangu must be extraordinary. Are you not interested in it, fellow Taoist Longwen?" Jing Shan said with a smile. "I am indeed interested. However, to be honest, this Long has also studied array Tao. I also observed this teleportation array just now. I found that this teleportation array is very profound. I can't understand it at all, let alone find a way to open this teleportation array." Zhuowen said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoist Long, have you forgotten me? Although I am not proficient in array Tao, I have visited this place many times and recorded the appearance of this array. I have looked for many ancient books and array Tao masters. In the end, I found a way to open this teleportation array." Jing Shan said excitedly. "What way?" Zhuowen asked with interest. "This array needs a descendant of Panga's inheritance to open it with his blood." Jingshan said in a deep voice. You mean my blood is needed to open this teleportation array? You didn't mention this method before. Instead, you said that you couldn't do anything about this teleportation array. Let me check it out. Maybe I can find a way to open it. Zhuowen said with a frown. He felt that Jingshan's words were different, which made him secretly vigilant. Moreover, he secretly observed this teleportation array and found that there was a very obscure killing intent hidden in this teleportation array. This was definitely not an ordinary teleportation array. Chapter 3364. Sigh. That's because I was afraid that you wouldn't believe me, so I lied to you before. In fact, I already knew the way to open this teleportation array, but I couldn't do it alone. I needed the blood of a successor of Pangu's inheritance, like you, fellow Taoist Long. Jingshan sighed softly. You're also a successor of Pangu's inheritance? You also have Pangu's inheritance? Zhuowen looked at Jingshan in amazement and blurted out, Yes, I also obtained a part of Pangu's inheritance, which is why I could sense Pangu's aura on you at a glance. Even if you used a clever concealment method, we are of the same origin and naturally have the same aura, so it's not strange that I could sense it. To tell you the truth, if I had obtained more of Pangu's inheritance, I could also open this teleportation array by myself, but there's no other way. The inheritance I obtained is too little, so even if I released all my blood, I still wouldn't be able to open this teleportation array. But if you and I work together, opening this teleportation array will not be a problem at all. Jingshan said sincerely. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He could see that the sincerity in Jingshan's eyes did not seem to be fake. Jingshan was very likely to have obtained a small part of Pangu's inheritance, as she said, but because the inheritance was too little, her blood essence was not enough to open this teleportation array. Fellow Taoist Long, I know that you should still be suspicious of me. This is human nature. After all, I did deceive you at the beginning. Jingshan sighed softly, took out a dagger, and quickly wiped her right wrist, dripping blood on the bright-colored teleportation array. The moment Jingshan's blood essence fell on the teleportation array, the blood-red teleportation array immediately lit up with a bright light, and an ancient and powerful aura suddenly burst out and spread throughout the entire underground grotto. Zhuowen was startled. He did not expect Jingshan to be the first to drip her blood essence, and her blood essence had indeed caused the teleportation array to surge, faintly showing signs of it being activated. I really didn't lie to you this time. This teleportation array really needs the blood essence of a successor of Pangu's inheritance to open. Fellow Taoist Long, quickly help me. Otherwise, I won't be able to bear it. Jingshan's blood essence kept dripping on the teleportation array, causing the array's blood color to become even more bewitching, and the ancient aura emitted from the teleportation array surface also became more and more intense. However, Jingshan's delicate body was trembling violently, and her face was pale without blood, like a bamboo pole that would fall with the wind. Her condition was very bad. Looking at Jingshan's SS teleportation array, he came to the teleportation array on the other side, took out Jingshan's hand's wrist, Jingshan SS, the array S Jingshan S Jingshan Sak TSSS right, Jingshan S SSS T stop SSS Jingt. The T test the this twos to this S. Zhuowen looked at Jingshan, who was opposite him, and found that Jingshan's SS complexion was also not looking good. Only then did he feel relieved and began to circulate his heavenly path energy to replenish this weakness caused by the excessive blood loss. However, as time passed, Zhuowen's SS expression became more and more solemn. He found that although the teleportation array's ancient aura was becoming more and more intense, it had not been activated yet. Instead, this blood essences was getting faster and faster, which made Zhuowen's turn. Bang, bang, bang. Just as Zhuowen was in a daze, the skulls on the 12 bone spears that were inserted in 12 directions of the teleportation array burst open one after another, turning into a strange blood mist. This blood mist formed a long stream that swept out in an instant, sweeping towards Zhuowen. The blood mist's speed was so fast that it reached Zhuowen in an instant. Zhuowen only had time to use the Profound Creation Mysterious Light, before he was completely enveloped by the blood mist. Jingshan, who was bleeding, suddenly retreated. Her face was still pale, and she seemed to be at a loss. "What's going on, Jingshan?" Crepe Myrtle Star suddenly blasted a punch at the blood mist, but it was blocked by the blood mist. He could not help but stagger back as he looked at Jingshan with an unsightly expression and coldly shouted. Jingshan shook her head, her eyes full of panic, and said, "I don't know what's going on either. I thought that by combining Mai's and Daoist Long's blood essence, we should be able to open this teleportation array. But I never thought that something like this would happen. I never expected this." Crepe Myrtle Star bombarded the blood mist dozens of times, but it was blocked by the blood mist every time. In the end, Crepe Myrtle Star gave up on forcibly breaking through the blood mist. Instead, he rushed to Jingshan's front, grabbed her collar, and angrily said, "You're the one who caused this. You must give me an explanation on how you're going to break through this blood mist and save my friend." "I don't know. I really don't know." Jingshan seemed to have lost her soul. She muttered to herself and trembled all over. Crepe Myrtle Star frowned slightly when he saw Jingshan's state, but he eventually let go of her. However, the moment he let go of Jingshan, a jade-like palm landed on Crepe Myrtle Star's chest like lightning. Uft! Crepe Myrtle Star was caught off guard and was hit directly by the slender palm. The powerful shockwave caused Crepe Myrtle Star to spit out a mouthful of blood and fall to the ground in a sorry state. "You!" Crepe Myrtle Star looked at Jingshan in disbelief. At this moment, the panic on Jingshan's face had long disappeared. Her expression was very calm as she looked directly at Crepe Myrtle Star. "You planned all of this?" Crepe Myrtle Star was no fool. He quickly thought of some clues and asked in a low voice, "Haha, what else could it be? That Longwen is really too cautious, causing me to use some tricks." But fortunately he still fell for it, and my tricks were not in vain. Jingshan said with a proud smile. Crepe Myrtle Star clutched his chest with an ugly expression. After being hit by Jingshan's palm, the power in his body began to become chaotic. It was like boiling water that kept moving around. It became much more difficult for him to circulate his energy. "Myrtle Star, your strength makes me very afraid. My chances of winning against a late-stage Screech Lord are not very high, so I used a little trick on you. Today you will die here." Jingshan laughed tenderly. She stomped her foot and rushed forward like a vigorous and cunning rabbit. In an instant, she closed in on Crepe Myrtle Star. Her jade-like palm was suffused with a blazing golden light as it blasted towards Crepe Myrtle Star. Crepe Myrtle Star punched out. When the fist and palm collided, an energy storm swept out and the surrounding ground nearly burst open. Uft! Crepe Myrtle Star spat out a mouthful of blood and kept retreating. He found a different kind of energy in his body. This energy was constantly disintegrating his strength, causing his power to be in chaos. He could not even use 20% of his strength. "I have to leave first. Otherwise, I may die here." Chapter 33, 65. Charging for 8 stars. Zixing is so lucky to have obtained inheritance of the undying bird. No wonder he's stronger than an ordinary late-stage Screech master. Jingshan frowned slightly as she watched Crepe Myrtle Star disappear in an instant. Crepe Myrtle Star's last escape technique was too fast. It should be the most powerful escape technique in the inheritance of the undying bird. Jingshan had completely lost track of Crepe Myrtle Star and could not find him at all. "Forget it, Zixing has escaped. It won't affect my plan at all. As long as Longwen is left behind, it's the greatest success." Jingshan sneered as she looked at the spirit array and the blood mist that was constantly swirling around it. Within the blood mist, Zhuowen was firmly trapped. Jingshan was very confident that once Longwen was entangled by the blood mist, he would die without a doubt. At that time, she would be the one who would benefit the most, and everything that belonged to Pangu would be hers. Bang, bang, bang. In the blood fog, the mysterious light of creation around Zhuowen was constantly surging, forming layers of scale-like barriers to resist the invasion of the surrounding blood fog. However, the power of the blood mist was just too terrifying. The mysterious light of creation that revolved around Zhuo when constantly swayed and became somewhat illusory. Zhuowen knew that the mysterious light of creation would not last for long. At this moment, Zhuowen's face was very ugly. He did not expect Jingshan to deceive him. The teleportation formation was just a cover to lure him into a trap. However, Zhuowen could not figure out whether Jingshan's words about the place where Pangu had fallen were true or whether Jingshan had been deceiving him from the beginning. Bang! Just as Zhuowen was lost in thought, the mysterious light of creation around him collapsed into countless light spots. The terrifying blood fog, which carried a strong smell of blood, suddenly drilled into Zhuowen's limbs and meridians. It seemed as if it intended to penetrate Zhuowen's entire body. Zhuowen's eyes were solemn as he began to circulate the energy around his body to resist the terrifying blood mist that was invading his surroundings. Unfortunately, his actions were completely futile. This blood fog was like looking at flowers in the fog. It was very illusory, and he could not destroy it at all. Every time he punched out, the blood mist in front of him would scatter like gravel, and then quickly enter Zhuowen's body through his acupoints, entering his body. When the blood mist entered Zhuowen's body, Zhuowen felt that his blood was greatly affected. His blood was no longer flowing smoothly, and the energy of the blood mist began to corrode his flesh, bones, and organs. Damn it, what the hell is this? It's actually corroding my flesh and blood. Zhuowen's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he muttered to himself in disbelief. This blood mist gave him the illusion that he was hitting water, and there was no way for him to borrow strength from. This made Zhuowen feel very helpless. Zhuowen used Gomang's power to rapidly heal his corroded flesh and blood. However, as more and more of the blood mist entered his body, even Gomang's power began to gradually weaken. As he used Gomang's power to resist the corrosion of the blood mist, Zhuowen used various methods in an attempt to break through the blood mist around him. Zhuowen even used trump cards like the Hui Divine Arrow and the Yama Demon Portrait, but they all failed in the end. Although he managed to break through most of the blood mist, he was blocked by the blood mist in the end. All his efforts were for naught. This caused Zhuo Wen's expression to become extremely grave. He knew that with his current strength, he was still somewhat lacking in breaking through the blood mist. Damn it, I can't continue like this. I'll definitely be toyed with to death by this blood mist. Zhuowen's expression was ugly. He knew very well that as more and more blood mist entered his body's recovery speed would definitely be surpassed by the speed of corrosion. When that time came, his body would be corroded beyond recognition, and that would also be the time of his death. With my current strength, it's still a little difficult to break through this blood mist barrier. However, if I can directly break through with the extraordinary power of the 8-star Pangu sacred body, it should be possible to break through the surrounding blood mist barrier. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He knew that at present this was his only way. He could only break through. He was certain that he could break through the surrounding blood mist barrier. However, according to the current speed of the blood mist invading his body, Zhuowen knew that he would not be able to hold on for 3 days. He did not know if he could successfully break through after fusing with the ancestral sorcerer goo within these 3 days. Although he was only half a step away from 8-star, this distance was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Let's go all out, I can only try. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with determination. He took out the Rushu goo insect and fused it into his body. Ignoring the Rushu, goo insect struggle. The moment the Rushu goo insect fused into his body, Zhuowen fully activated the energy of the Pangus sacred body and began to rapidly absorb the Rushu goo insect's energy. A cool feeling spread throughout Zhuowen's body, causing Zhuowen to look up to the sky and roar. That feeling filled his body and began to transform his Pangu sacred body. Blazing crystal light surged and erupted from Zhuowen's body. He was like a supreme Buddha, holy and flawless. The energy of the Rushu insect was so abundant that began to shake Zhuowen's realm. However, when Zhuowen gathered his strength and began to break through the realm, he always felt that there was a thick barrier in front of him, preventing him from going further. Zhuowen knew that this was a necessary obstacle to break through to 8-star. He did not think too much about it. Instead, he began to constantly refine the energy of the Rushu insect. He knew that as long as he accumulated a certain amount of energy, he would naturally be able to break through the barrier of the realm and smoothly advance. Moreover, just in case, Zhuowen prepared the remaining Xianming goo insect and Changliang goo insect. If he still could not break through the barrier of the realm after refining the Rushu goo insect, he would immediately fuse the 2 goo insects into his body. In the past 2 days, the energy of the blood mist in Zhuowen's body became more and more terrifying. Moreover, the blood mist continued to pour into his body from the outside. Zhuowen's 5 viscera and 6 bowels had been completely corroded. Although Zhuowen looked unscathed, his internal organs were almost completely corroded. This was because Zhuowen had the Pangu sacred body. If other cultivators were surrounded by this terrifying blood mist, they would definitely die within 2 hours. Break for me! Zhuowen roared. He had finally completely refined the energy of the Rushu insect and began to break through to the 8-star realm. Boom! 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 Zhuowen's body resounded with a terrifying explosion like the 9 heavens' profound thunder. A terrifying aura swept out and dispersed the surrounding blood mist. Puff! Zhuowen suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura became extremely weak. At the same time, the blood mist that had been dispersed quickly flowed back into Zhuowen's body and began to corrode Zhuowen's flesh, blood, and bones. This time, Zhuowen failed to break through the realm. It was too difficult to break through to the 8-star realm. Zhuowen was half a step to the 8-star realm and had absorbed all the energy of an ancestral wizard goo insect. However, he still failed. Zhuowen made a prompt decision and immediately fused the Xianming goo insect and Changliang goo insect into his body. He knew that there was not much time left for him. Chapter 3366 To be reborn after Changliang and Xianming poisonous insects entered Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen's pale face suddenly became a little rosy, and his weak aura also became a little stronger. Another day passed, and Zhuowen's flesh and blood had been completely corroded. The skin on the surface had long festered, and only a skeleton was left. Moreover, the skeleton also began to gradually disappear under the cover of the blood mist. However, Zhuowen's head was intact, and his divine soul had not been destroyed. When all the flesh and bones below his head had melted, Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes and let out a long howl. Along with the howl, a magnificent and terrifying aura burst out from Zhuowen's body. This aura was so terrifying that it was much more terrifying than Zhuowen's before. It was as if a qualitative change had occurred. Below Zhuowen's head, the flesh and bones that had melted began to gradually recover. In the end, Zhuowen's complete body was completely restored. Zhuowen stood up and his eyes flashed. He laughed and said, "Finally, I have broken through. I have finally broken through to the 8-star Pangu sacred body." Zhuowen had broken through to the 8-star Pangu sacred body, and the aura in his body was still soaring. This was because the energy provided by Changliang and Xianming poisonous insects was too strong, and a small part of it still remained in Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen suddenly punched out, and the surrounding blood mist, which was difficult to deal with, was swept up in waves. Some of the blood mist even directly collapsed. Moreover, Zhuowen's casual punch contained the energy fluctuations of Chanliang, Xianming, and Rushou. These three energies were the power of thunder, the power of rain, and the power of gold. Of course, in addition to these three energies, Zhuowen's attack also contained the power of other ancestral sorcery poisonous insects that had integrated into his body, such as Zhurong's power of fire and Gonggong's power of water. Zhuowen's eyes were full of light. He knew that with the power of his 8-star Pangu's sacred body, he could shatter the bloody mist around him. However, he did not do so. He sat down cross-legged again. He planned to absorb all the remaining energy of the goo in his body. He planned to continue to break through the realm and directly upgrade his Pangu's sacred body from the 8-star early stage to the middle stage. He had used 3 ancestral sorcerer goo worms. 1 ancestral sorcerer goo worm was already very rare, let alone 3. Naturally, he was unwilling to waste the remaining ancestral sorcerer goo worm's energy. The surrounding blood mist was no longer able to affect Zhuowen. Any blood mist that got close to Zhuowen was completely suppressed by the powerful aura of his physical body, not daring to move at all. Another day passed, and it was also the 9th day since they entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Jingshan sat cross-legged beside the magic array and looked at the spherical blood mist floating above the magic array. She frowned. 4 days have passed, and Long Wen is still alive. Isn't he too tenacious? Jingshan muttered to herself. She knew how terrifying the blood mist was. Even she could not last a day if she was wrapped in the blood mist. However, Long Wen was wrapped in the blood mist. It had been 4 days, but the blood mist had not dissipated. This made Jingshan feel a little uneasy. Just when Jingshan was in a daze, the blood mist suddenly exploded. A terrifying aura, like gravity being magnified countless times, acted on the entire underground grotto. Jingshan snorted. The moment she came into contact with the aura, she retreated and her face turned extremely pale. When Jingshan raised her head to look at the place where the blood mist dissipated, she saw an indomitable figure. She was no stranger to this figure, because this figure was actually Long Wen, who she thought would die. Long Wen? How is this possible? You didn't die in the bloodthirsty ghost mist. This is impossible. Jingshan's beautiful eyes widened as she shouted in disbelief. Zhuowen looked down at Jingshan with cold eyes and said indifferently, "What's impossible? You, on the other hand, actually dared to scheme against me. You're really something." Jingshan's eyes turned gloomy. She quickly retreated. However, the moment she retreated, she felt a pain in her neck. Zhuowen had actually grabbed her neck. She mustered all the energy in her body and tried to break free from Zhuowen's grip. However, she realized that all her efforts were in vain. She could not break free at all. She was now like a doll in Zhuowen's hand and had completely lost her freedom. Only then did Jingshan notice that the aura on Zhuowen's body had become so powerful that it was actually suppressing her. You actually broke through in the bloodthirsty ghost mist?" Jingshan thought of something and could not help but shout. "Thanks to you, I did indeed break through in that bullshit blood mist." Zhuowen said coldly as he threw Jingshan to the ground. At the same time, he pointed his sword finger with his right hand, and a ray of brilliance swept out and entered Jingshan's body. Jingshan screamed as her body went limp on the ground. She looked at Zhuowen with resentment and screamed, "Long Wen, you actually dared to cripple me? You conspired against me. I'm already being merciful by not killing you." Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent as he continued, "Tell me, why do you want to harm me?" Jingshan was in a daze as she collapsed on the ground. She turned a deaf ear to Zhuowen's question. Zhuowen frowned slightly and said, "Don't force me to search your soul." Jingshan still looked confused, as if she did not hear Zhuowen's words at all. Her cultivation was crippled and her future was bleak. She had nothing left to live for. Zhuowen shook his head. His right hand turned into a claw, and pressed on Jingshan's head as he began to search her soul. After Zhuowen withdrew his hand, he threw Jingshan into the teleportation array. The blood mist that had been dispersed by Zhuowen was like a big mouth that swallowed Jingshan. Jingshan let out a blood-curdling screech before she went completely silent. Zhuowen looked at the wriggling blood mist on the array. His face did not look good. Through Jingshan's memories, Zhuowen knew that this array was indeed a teleportation array that led to a place related to Pangu. However, in order to activate this teleportation array, the life of a cultivator who had obtained a part of Pangu's inheritance must be sacrificed. After the life of the cultivator who had obtained Pangu's inheritance was sacrificed, it would form a blood-red teleportation card. With this blood-red teleportation card, the person who obtained it could activate it at any time and anywhere to enter the so-called place where Pangu had fallen. Of course, whether it was the place where Pangu had fallen was still to be verified. However, it was definitely a place related to Pangu. The inheritance of the cultivator who had been sacrificed would be engraved on the blood-red teleportation card. The person who obtained it would be able to obtain the part of Pangu's inheritance from the cultivator who had been sacrificed. Haha, this Jingshan is really scheming. She actually schemed against me from the beginning. Chapter 3367. The Huntsman caught the blood-red token falling from the sky. His divine thought fell on the token, and he was pleasantly surprised to find that he had indeed found a part of Pangu's inheritance in the token. He knew that the inheritance should be the part of Jingshan's inheritance. However, the inheritance that Jingshan had obtained was too little. It was less than 1/10 of the inheritance that Zhuowen had obtained. Moreover, the information about Pangu's inheritance that Jingshan had obtained was very lacking. Even the cultivation method of Pangu's sacred body was incomplete. However, the inheritance shown in the blood-red token was of great help to Zhuowen. It was a great supplement to the inheritance of Pangu in his body. It gave Zhuowen a more intuitive understanding of Pangu's power and a deeper understanding of the cultivation method of Pangu's sacred body. At the same time, Zhuowen also found that the blood-red token contained an extremely profound teleportation power. He believed that as long as he activated the token with his divine thought, the teleportation power would immediately bring him to the other side of the token. Although he did not know where the other side of the teleportation would be, it was definitely a place related to Pangu. It would be best if it was the place where Pangu had fallen so that he could obtain the remaining inheritance of Pangu. Zhuowen did not immediately use the teleportation power in the token. He knew very well that the teleportation power would definitely be a life-saving measure at a critical moment. He had offended many people in the sorcerer tribe. With this token, his life would definitely be safe. Moreover, from Jingshan's memory, he knew that Crepe Star Sovereign had been seriously injured by Jingshan's sneak attack. Zhuowen was somewhat worried about Crepe Star Sovereign's safety. The energy that Jingshan had injected into Crepe Star Sovereign's body was not simple. It was extremely powerful and was one of Jingshan's trump cards. It was something that she had obtained from Pangu's inheritance. Although Crepe Star Sovereign had obtained the immortal bird's inheritance and was extremely extraordinary, he knew that it would be difficult for him to resist the erosion of that energy. Thinking of this, Zhuowen sent a message to Crepe Star Sovereign, asking for his location. However, after a long time, Crepe Star Sovereign did not reply. This made Zhuowen feel a sense of foreboding. In another day, the space of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond will expel everyone here. I must find Brother Crepe Star Sovereign within a day. Zhuowen frowned slightly as he left the underground grotto. His powerful divine sense began to sweep out, searching the area on a large scale. Soon, Zhuowen arrived at the valley where the baptismal pool. He discovered 4 figures in the valley. They were Tu Qian from the Moon Wolf clan, Wu Qiudong from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Xiang Gui from the Giant Turtle clan, and Xiu Kong from the Space-Time Beast clan. Zhuowen Wen's divine sense swept over without restraint, and it naturally alarmed the 4 foreign race geniuses who were sitting cross-legged and cultivating. Translation, 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 translation. Com translation, 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 translation. Translation, 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 translation. Translation, 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 translation. Translation. Zhuowen Star Sovereign. He landed in the valley, looked at the 4 foreign race geniuses, and asked calmly, "Brother Long, didn't Brother Crepe Star Sovereign leave with you? Did something happen?" Tu Qian of the Moon Wolf clan cupped his fists and asked politely. Zhuowen Star Sovereign's eyes were cold. He reached out with his right hand, grabbed Tu Qian's neck, and lifted him up. "Brother Tu Qian, you should know something, right? You'd better tell me the truth. Otherwise, I don't mind having another corpse in my hands," Zhuowen Star Sovereign said coldly. When Tu Qian was talking to him, Zhuowen Star Sovereign could clearly see a strange light flashing in Tu Qian's eyes. Tu Qian wasn't the only one. The other 3 foreign race geniuses didn't dare to look him in the eye. He knew that the 4 of them might know the whereabouts of Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch, but they didn't want to tell him. Tu Qian's pupils shrank. He kept struggling in Zhuowen Star Sovereign's hands, but all his efforts were in vain. Tu Qian was scared. He found that Long Wen's strength seemed to be stronger than a few days ago. He was pinched in his hand with a flip of his hand. Even moving was a luxury. Even a master of the late realm of Tongtian realm might not be able to do this. "Brother Long, don't be impulsive. I'll tell you the truth. I just hope you don't kill a good person," Tu Qian hurriedly said. "Cut the crap. Tell me what you know," Zhuowen Star Sovereign said impatiently. Tu Qian did not dare to hide anything. He told Long Wen everything he knew. It turned out that after Crepe Star Sovereign was seriously injured by Jingshan, he left the underground grotto and came to this valley. In this ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Only this valley had the richest heavenly energy. If Crepe Star Sovereign wanted to recover quickly, this valley was the best choice. When Crepe Star Sovereign came to the valley with serious injuries, Tu Qian and the others were surprised. They were all guessing who could cause such serious injuries to an expert like Crepe Star Sovereign. However, they also understood that Crepe Star Sovereign's cultivation was much higher than theirs, so they did not disturb him. Instead, they sat not far away and minded their own business. In this way, 3 days passed. Crepe Star Sovereign's condition was indeed worsening. His aura also became weaker than 3 days ago. It seemed that there was a powerful energy in Crepe Star Sovereign's body that was suppressing him. Although Crepe Star Sovereign's condition was not very good, Tu Qian and the others were still very afraid and did not act rashly. It was at this time that Wu Xingyuan returned to the valley. When he saw Crepe Star Sovereign in a very bad condition, he immediately wanted to kill him. Crepe Star Sovereign naturally could not sit still and wait for death. He made a prompt decision to escape from the valley. Wu Xingyuan followed closely behind and began to pursue Crepe Star Sovereign. Zhuowen threw Tu Qian to the ground and asked coldly, "Which direction did they escape in?" Tu Qian's face was pale. This time, he did not dare disobey Zhuowen and hurriedly pointed in a direction. Zhuowen was very decisive. He took out the space-time roulette and began to chase in the direction Tu Qian pointed in. He was a little anxious. He knew very well that after Crepe Star Sovereign was invaded by that strange energy, his strength would decline with the passage of time. He would definitely not be a match for Wu Xingyuan. This was because he could tell from Tu Qian's words that Wu Xingyuan's injuries seemed to be healed. Wu Xingyuan probably had an extremely high-grade healing medicine on him. Otherwise, It would be impossible for his heavily injured body to recover to its peak state in just a few days. At the thought of this, Zhuowen felt a little irritated. He was very worried about Crepe Star Sovereign's condition. He could not help but increase his speed to an extremely terrifying level. He used all his strength in a space quite far away from Zhuowen. Crepe Star Sovereign was fleeing in a rather sorry state. His face was pale and bloodless, his chest was dripping with blood, and his limbs and bones were badly damaged. Not far behind Crepe Star Sovereign, a figure with an aura as vast as the sea was rapidly chasing after him. This was a young man with a handsome face. His shoulder-length hair floated in the air like steel needles, and his body emitted a blazing light. He was like a rapidly moving, blazing sun, scorching and bright as he hovered in the sky. He was very extraordinary. This young man was the #1 genius of the sorcerer race, Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan's eyes were cold as he looked at Crepe Star Sovereign, who was constantly fleeing in front of him. He sneered and said, "Purple Star, you also have a day like this. To be heavily injured by someone, how rare!" Chapter 3368.in Advance Wu Xingyuan was very confident. At the same time, he hated Zixing and Long when to the point his teeth itched. He wished for nothing more than to pull out their tendons, flay their bones, and tear their bodies into pieces. Because of these two people, he was seriously injured and almost dead. In order to quickly recover, he swallowed the only healing panacea he had. He had accidentally obtained that healing panacea from a ruin. It was extremely precious and could quickly heal his injuries when he was on the verge of death. It could be said that it was his second life. Originally, he had planned to use this healing panacea in a grand battle in the future to make the best use of it. However, he had never expected that he would use it in a place like the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Moreover, he had not soaked in the baptismal pool for long, and his strength had even regressed. It was really a loss for him to use this healing panacea. How could Wu Xingyuan not be angry? Humph! Zixing, after I kill you, I will go and settle the score with Long Wen. That guy is sinister and cunning. If I fight him head-on, I will definitely beat him to death. Wu Xingyuan recalled that he had been severely injured by Zhuan's arrow, and his face turned ugly. He had lost that battle unjustly. He had been entangled by a late-stage transcending heaven lord like Zixing Jun, and had become Long Wen's living target. It had been a very humiliating battle. At the same time, Wu Xingyuan was very afraid of Zhuan's Ho-E Divine Arrow. He did not expect that Ho-E Divine Arrow would be so powerful that it could seriously injure him with one arrow. If he met Long Wen again, he would definitely not give him the chance to shoot Ho-E Divine Arrow. He would kill Long Wen as soon as he met him. Thinking of this, Wu Xingyuan made up his mind and slammed his palm across the air. Zixing Jun could not dodge in time and was hit by the palm. He vomited blood and fell. However, Zixing Jun was very agile. The moment he fell, his whole body was covered in black flames. With a whoosh, he escaped into the depths of the ground and continued to escape. Wu Xingyuan snorted coldly, stomped his right foot, and chased after him. At the same time, Wu Xingyuan's aura had completely locked onto Zixing Jun. He kept attacking, causing Zixing Jun's injuries to worsen. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's aura grew weaker and weaker. His gaze was gloomy. He never thought that things would come to this. It was all his fault for being too careless and getting ambushed by Jingshan. I wonder how Brother Zhuo is doing. Myrtle Star Sovereign felt a little guilty. Back then, he had attempted to blast the blood mist, but even his full-strength strike had failed. Later on, he was ambushed by Jingshan and had no choice but to escape from the underground grotto. Until now, he still did not know how Zhuowen was doing. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign, you can't even protect yourself, yet you're still thinking about the safety of others. You're really courting death. Just as Crepe Myrtle Star was thinking about Zhuowen in a daze, Wu Xingyuan had already arrived below him and kicked him in the chest. Pucci! Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign only had time to put his hands in front of his chest. The kick was so powerful that it directly broke his hands. He spat out blood and was sent flying upside down. He broke through the soil and floated in the air like a parabola. Wu Xingyuan suddenly broke out of the ground and rushed to Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's side. He held the hammer with both hands. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign fell to the ground like a meteor. Wu Xingyuan landed on the ground and stomped hard on Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch's chest, making it impossible for him to move. Myrtle Star, to think that you would have such a day. You're dead. Wu Xingyuan laughed. Just as Wu Xingyuan was about to kill Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign, the surrounding space suddenly began to distort. A terrifying pushing force came from all directions, as if it was repelling Wu Xingyuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. The world of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond is repelling me. There should still be a day left. Is it ending a day early? Wu Xingyuan frowned slightly and muttered to himself. He was very surprised. You're lucky. I won't kill you first. I'll imprison you. After leaving the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, Longwen will naturally come out. When that time comes, I'll personally step on him and send the two of you to hell. Wu Xingyuan sneered. He opened his right hand and a powerful black energy swept out. It turned into a rope and tied Wu Xingyuan up like a dumpling. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign had already lost his ability to fight. He could only let Wu Xingyuan do what he wanted. The pushing force in the surrounding space grew stronger. Wu Xingyuan carried Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign and did not resist the pushing force. He began to leave the space. Tu Qian and the others in the valley also felt the pushing force that suddenly appeared. They also knew that their time in this world was up. They were being repelled. Zhuowen, who was frantically searching for Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign, also felt the powerful repelling force. His face turned ugly. He took a deep breath and relaxed his body. He knew very well that, as long as he left this space, he would naturally meet Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. What he was worried about now was whether Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign had fallen. If he did, he was afraid that he would not be able to return. However, no matter what the result was, Zhuowen had already sentenced Wu Xingyuan to death. There was no doubt that he would kill Wu Xingyuan. That's Wu Xingyuan? The moment Zhuowen relaxed his body, he saw a figure in the light in front of him. That figure was carrying a figure. The figure was very familiar. It was the number 1 genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. The moment Zhuowen saw Wu Xingyuan, he took a step forward and chased after the figure with the help of the pushing force. At this moment, a huge crack appeared in the sky above the guarded land. It was the entrance to the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Corpse Inmarsh and the others looked at Wu Wuxian strangely. It had only been 9 days since Wu Xingyuan and the others entered the guarded land. Wu Wuxian had actually reopened the entrance to the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Was he planning to teleport Wu Xingyuan and the others out in advance? Grand Priestess, there's still 1 more day to the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. What do you mean by this? Foam, Lilua frowned and asked. I have an ominous feeling. There's something wrong with the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. I have to open it and take a look. Wu Wuxian's face turned ugly. In fact, a few days ago, she felt that the seal she had placed on the surface of the 3 ancestral sorcerers' corpses in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond seemed to have lost connection. This shocked her. She had personally placed the seal and spent many years on it. Logically speaking, no one should have been able to break it. However, she could not feel the aura of the seal. It was obvious that someone had broken it. If it was not for the space restriction of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, she would have opened it a few days ago. Chapter 3369. Exploding Wu Xingyuan within the space of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. The repulsive force became more and more terrifying. In the distance, a blazing white light appeared. Looking carefully at the end of the blazing white light, there was a deep and dark black hole. The pitch-black hole was like a bottomless mouth that seemed to be able to swallow all matter. Wu Xingyuan carried the half-dead crepe myrtle star and looked at the black hole calmly. He knew that the black hole was the exit of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Although the black hole was close, it was actually at the end of the space. He had to borrow the repulsive force of the space to get close to the black hole. "Brother, Xingyuan! Xingyuan!" Suddenly, two voices came from the side. Wu Xingyuan turned around and saw the Moon Wolf clan's genius Tu Qian and the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's genius Wu Qiudong approaching him from the right. The two of them were also being pushed away by the repulsive force. However, they didn't look good. They frowned and looked worried. At the same time, they saw crepe myrtle star in Wu Xingyuan's hand, and the worry on their faces became more intense. "What's wrong?" Wu Xingyuan saw the strange expressions on Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong's faces and asked in surprise, "Brother Xingyuan, Long Wen came looking for you. I'm afraid he didn't come with good intentions. Now that you've kidnapped his friend Zixing, I'm afraid he won't let it go." Tu Qian sighed. Wu Xingyuan sneered. "What's that, Long Wen? Other than shooting arrows in the back, what other abilities does he have? He's just a coward." Wu Qiudong's beautiful eyes were filled with worry. She said in a deep voice, "Xingyuan, don't be careless. Long Wen's strength seems to have increased greatly. Brother Tu Qian was subdued by him in one move. His strength is definitely not simple." "Oh, he subdued brother Tu Qian in one move? Looks like he's made some progress, but I still don't take him seriously." Wu Xingyuan's eyes were filled with arrogance. He didn't take Long Wen seriously at all. In Wu Xingyuan's eyes, even if Long Wen's strength wasn't simple, he was definitely not his opponent. Back then, he had even been able to suppress a late-stage transcending heaven lord like the crepe myrtle star. He had investigated and found that the dragon rune was much weaker than the crepe myrtle star. Even if Long Wen's strength had increased, it was impossible for him to be his opponent. He had this kind of confidence and did not fear Long Wen at all. Instead, in his heart, he was looking forward to meeting Long Wen and capturing him in one fell swoop. Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong looked at each other. Seeing Wu Xingyuan so confident, the worry in their hearts lessened greatly. They also realized that the person standing in front of them was not an ordinary genius. He was the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe, a monster who could look down on the entire primitive heaven realm. No matter how extraordinary that dragon rune was, could it be that Wu Xingyuan had left? If it was a one-on-one fight, Wu Xingyuan did not even place this late-stage heavenly master in his eyes, let alone that Long Wen. "Brother Xingyuan, you're right. I was rash just now. With Brother Xingyuan's strength, if that Long Wen came over, it would truly be seeking death." Tu Qian said rather embarrassedly, He, that's true. Xingyuan is the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe, and he even has a powerful sorcerer body. We were careless because we cared too much. That's why we were rash just now." Wu Qiudong chuckled and looked at Wu Xingyuan with a blushing face. Wu Xingyuan held Z-Wei Star Lord in his left hand and placed his right hand behind his back. His eyes were filled with arrogance. "That Long Wen is just a coward. His friend is in trouble, but he plays the game of vanishing into thin air. I wonder where he is hiding. However, we are about to leave the ancestral sorcerer magical pond. Even if Long Wen can hide, he can't hide anymore. At that time, I will personally capture him and kill him in front of countless people," Wu Xingyuan said proudly. Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong nodded. They were also infected by Wu Xingyuan's confidence. They felt that, so what if Long Wen's strength had increased greatly? He would not be Wu Xingyuan's opponent. "Oh, you want to kill me in front of everyone. Are you sure?" Suddenly, a faintly discernible voice slowly came over. Wu Xingyuan's eyes slowly narrowed. He raised his head and turned around. He saw Zhuowen, who was dressed in black, walking over slowly. His eyes were filled with coldness, provocation, and contempt. Seeing Zhuowen's attitude, Wu Xingyuan snorted coldly. His face was a little ugly. He said, I really didn't expect that you would dare to come after seeing me here instead of hiding. I really admire your courage. Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong's faces changed slightly. They secretly stepped back and stared at Zhuowen with vigilance. Zhuowen's combat strength had left a deep impression on them. They knew that the two of them were absolutely no match for Zhuowen. Zhuowen ignored Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong's actions. Instead, he looked at Ziwei Star Lord in Wu Xingyuan's hand and said coldly, Put him down, and I can let you die a quick death. Wu Xingyuan was stunned. He immediately laughed and said, Let me die a quick death? Longwen, you're too arrogant. Do you really think that I can't restrain you? If not for your sneak attack earlier, you and Ziwei would have long been two corpses. Then I wouldn't have allowed you to be arrogant in front of me now. However, it's very good now. Taking the initiative to come and die, it saves me from finding trouble with you. Wu Xingyuan was very conceited. He looked at Zhuowen with a cold gaze, full of confidence that victory was in his hands. He did not put Zhuowen in his eyes at all. I won't talk nonsense with you either. Die for me. Zhuowen shook his head and stomped his right foot. Terrifying ripples suddenly appeared in the surrounding space. This was a terrifying phenomenon caused by a tremendous energy explosion. Zhuowen could actually cause such a huge uproar with just a stomp. It could be seen how terrifying and powerful this Zhuowen was. In an instant, Zhuowen disappeared on the spot and already appeared in front of Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan's eyes narrowed slightly. Zhuowen's speed was so fast that it actually made him a little dizzy. But he was also not an ordinary person. The moment Zhuowen swept in front of him, his right hand formed into a fist and still blasted out. The cultivation of the middle stage Tongtian Lord plus the power of the 8-star wizard body was extremely terrifying. When the fist and palm collided, the aftershock was like an explosion of clouds and mist, spreading out in all directions. It was exceptionally terrifying and shocking. Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong both could not withstand it and hurriedly retreated. Their gazes were solemn as they looked at the two figures that were already covered by the aftershock and could not be seen clearly. Zhuowen's strength was so powerful that it somewhat exceeded their expectations. Just this move could actually burst out such a terrifying aura. It actually had the tendency to be on par with Wu Xingyuan. The moment Wu Xingyuan's fist came into contact with Zhuowen, he immediately realized that something was wrong. Chapter 30, 370. Retreat. That was the only thought in Wu Xingyuan's mind. He had underestimated Longwen. He knew that Longwen was very powerful and was probably stronger than him. He could not continue to fight him head-on. However, just as Wu Xingyuan was about to retreat, a palm turned into a claw and quickly grabbed his left arm. With a sudden squeeze, Wu Xingyuan's left arm was directly twisted. Wu Xingyuan cried out in pain and immediately let go of his left hand that was holding Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign and quickly retreated. Zhuowen took Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign and did not chase after Wu Xingyuan. Instead, he checked on Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's condition. What made him heave a sigh of relief was that although Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign was severely injured, he was not dead and still had a breath of life. Zhuowen took out a healing divine pill and fed it to Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. Then he sent Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign into the macro world. After he instructed Ghost Plume and Yin Wuxia in the macro world to take care of Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign, he rushed out of the aftermath of the battle and chased after Wu Xingyuan, who was escaping. I wonder how the battle between Xingyuan and Longwen went. I really did not expect Longwen to be so powerful that he could fight with Xingyuan for so long. Wu Qiudong said with a frown. Longwen is indeed powerful. However, Brother Xingyuan is even more powerful. Longwen will definitely be killed by Brother Xingyuan. There is no doubt about that. Tu Qian said in a deep voice. While the two of them were discussing, a rather miserable figure suddenly rushed out from the aftermath of the battle. The two of them looked over and realized that the figure was actually Wu Xingyuan. What made the two of them even more stunned was that Wu Xingyuan's current condition was very bad. Wu Xingyuan's right hand was directly blasted into a bloody mist and completely disappeared. As for his left arm, it was twisted beyond recognition. It was probably crippled. Seeing Wu Xingyuan's miserable state, Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong both opened their mouths wide and were speechless. Long Wen's strength is really extraordinary. Before he died, he could actually make brother Xingyuan so miserable. Tu Qian shook his head and said solemnly. Wu Qiudong nodded. Wu Xingyuan's miserable state really shocked the two of them. However, the two people both thought that Wu Xingyuan only paid such a price after finishing off Longwen. In the hearts of the two, the scale of victory was still tilted towards Wu Xingyuan. They simply could not imagine that Wu Xingyuan was beaten to such a state by Longwen and could only escape. They were too confident in Wu Xingyuan. As soon as Wu Xingyuan left the range of the aftermath, he fled toward the hole in the distance with a panicked expression. He was very shocked in his heart, and there was also a trace of regret. He truly did not expect that Long Wen's strength would actually be so terrifying, crippling his right arm with a single move. Just from that one exchange of blows earlier, Wu Xingyuan knew that he was completely not Long Wen's match. I have to leave this place as soon as possible. As long as I leave this place and reach the main hall of the shaman tribe, I will be safe. At that time, the high priest will help me destroy Longwen. Wu Xingyuan thought fiercely in his heart, but his speed became faster and faster. After Zhuowen flew out of the range of the aftermath, he saw Wu Qiudong and Tu Qian, who were in a daze. He ignored the two of them and chased after Wu Xingyuan directly. Wu Xingyuan, didn't you claim to be the #1 genius in the primitive heavenly region? Now you're actually fleeing in panic like a stray dog. Don't you feel ashamed? Zhuowen's calm voice was heard. Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong immediately came back to their senses and looked at Longwen, who was chasing after Wu Xingyuan speechlessly. Oh my God! Brother Xingyuan is actually not Long Wen's match. How long has it been and he was defeated? Did he use one move or two moves? Tu Qian opened his mouth and finally said such a sentence. Wu Qiudong also felt that it was unbelievable, but she had to believe that what she saw before her eyes was the truth. Wu Xingyuan was really defeated. Moreover, he was chased by Longwen like a stray dog. It was too embarrassing. Zhuowen's voice was very loud. Wu Xingyuan naturally heard it clearly. His eyes revealed a look of humiliation, but the speed of his feet was extremely fast. He swore in his heart that after leaving the space of this ancestor sorcerer magical pool, he would definitely let the high priest take action personally and exterminate this arrogant Longwen. Huff! Almost there. After going out, it will be Long Wen's time of death. There are many experts in the sorcerer tribe. This Longwen is dead for sure. Wu Xingyuan saw the black hole that was close at hand. He let out a breath, lightly. He knew that he could leave the ancestor sorcerer magical pool after entering this black hole. He did not even think and plunged into the interior of the black hole. Not long after Wu Xingyuan entered, Zhuowen already rushed over. He laughed coldly and said, Wu Xingyuan, you can't escape. You're dead meat. Saying that, Zhuowen also entered the black hole head first. Following Wu Xingyuan's aura, he chased over swiftly. Not long after Zhuowen and Wu Xingyuan entered the black hole, Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong also rushed over. The two of them looked at each other, both revealing worried looks. They also plunged into the black hole. In the guardian ground where the sorcerer tribe's main hall was, the high priest of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Wuxian, stood in front of the various tribe leaders. Her beautiful eyes stared at the whirlpool floating in the air. That was the exit of the ancestor sorcerer magical pool. The ominous feeling in her heart grew stronger. She did not know what had happened in the ancestor sorcerer space that made her feel so uneasy. She planned to wait for Wu Xingyuan to come out and properly ask him what had happened in the ancestor sorcerer magical pool. Wu Wuxian did not speak. Corpse Inmarsh and the other tribe leaders also remained silent. They did not dare to speak carelessly. Suddenly, a figure swept out from the whirlpool in the air. When everyone saw the figure's true appearance, they were not surprised, because the first to come out was the number one genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. Everyone knew that Wu Xingyuan was powerful. Now that Wu Xingyuan was the first to walk out of the ancestor sorcerer magical pool, this was naturally the most normal thing. However, people quickly realized that Wu Xingyuan was not in a good state. His right arm was gone, and his left arm was twisted. His hair was disheveled, and he was in a bad state. Moreover, they could also see that Wu Xingyuan's eyes were filled with panic, as if something was chasing after him. The moment Wu Wuxian saw Wu Xingyuan's state, her eyes darkened. Just as she was about to scold Wu Xingyuan, another figure suddenly rushed out of the whirlpool. The moment the figure swept out of the whirlpool, it rushed towards Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan's eyes were filled with fear. He immediately turned around, intending to block the figure. Poof! Unfortunately, Wu Xingyuan was not this figure's opponent at all, and was actually sent flying out by the impact. The figure caught up with Wu Xingyuan and grabbed Wu Xingyuan's neck with one hand. With a sudden force, Wu Xingyuan's neck was broken. However, the figure did not stop there. He pointed a finger, and it landed on Wu Xingyuan's forehead. Wu Xingyuan looked up to the sky and screamed. Then he suddenly stopped. His head tilted to one side, and he completely stopped breathing. He died just like that. Wu Wuxian's eyes widened. The moment her gaze fell on the figure's face, her expression was very interesting. Chapter 3371. Zhuowen casually tossed Wu Xingyuan's corpse to the ground. Bang! The sound of the corpse colliding with the ground reverberated in the space, causing everyone's eyes to focus on Wu Xingyuan, who had already become a corpse. Wu Wuxian was stunned. She stared at Wu Xingyuan's corpse, her heart filled with rage. She looked at Zhuowen in the sky, wanting nothing more than to destroy Zhuowen. Whoosh! 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 Not long after Zhuowen killed Wu Xingyuan, Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong came out of the vortex. They glanced at Zhuowen, but were quickly attracted by Wu Xingyuan's corpse on the ground. Brother Xingyuan, he's dead. Tu Qian stared at Wu Xingyuan's corpse in shock. Wu Qiudong was even more dispirited. She had always liked Wu Xingyuan. Now that Wu Xingyuan had died in front of her, she was naturally very depressed. After Tu Qian and Wu Qiudong, Xiu Kong of the space-time beast race and Xiang Gui of the giant turtle race also came out of the vortex. They also saw Wu Xingyuan's corpse and were so shocked that their bodies stiffened. They stood motionless on the spot. Soon, their eyes fell on Zhuowen, who was not far away. They all guessed that Wu Xingyuan's death was caused by Zhuowen. Zhuowen ignored the gazes of Tu Qian and the others. The four of them were no threat to him. His gaze fell on Wu Wuxian, the high priest below. He did not avoid looking at Wu Wuxian. He could feel that Wu Wuxian was very powerful, although her cultivation was also at the late stage of the Skirich Master Realm. She was much stronger than the patriarchs of the major races. She was probably not far from the peak of the Skirich Master Realm. This kid is really arrogant. Wu Wuxian was furious. She did not expect Zhuowen to be so bold. He killed Wu Xingyuan and still looked her in the eye. Was this a slap to her face? Just as Wu Wuxian was about to teach Zhuowen a lesson, Shi Inquan, who was standing beside him, stopped him. Grand Priest, this Long One is treacherous and deserves death indeed. However, we should question this kid before we make a move against him. Exactly how did he sneak into the ancestral shaman's strange pond? Furthermore, don't you think that the number of geniuses that came out of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond is too little? Only 4 people came out? Corpse Inmarsh was very calm as he spoke in a deep voice. At this moment, Tu Qian, Wu Qiudong, and the other three returned to their teams. Soon, the news that the other geniuses had been killed by Zhuowen spread, especially when Wu Wuxian found out that Wu Wenbin and Wu Shiran were killed by Zhuowen. She almost fainted from anger. It was the fortune of the sorcerer tribe to have 3 talented juniors. They were the future pillars of the sorcerer tribe. In the future, they would definitely be the strongest warriors in the untainted heaven realm. Wu Xingyuan in particular had unlimited potential. It would not be a problem for him to reach the height of the sorcerer tribe's sacred leader in the future. However, now that the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe had been killed by Longwen, Wu Wuxian was so angry that her liver hurt. She could not wait to kill Longwen. Not only Wu Wuxian, but the leaders of the Black Tiger tribe, the Dragon tribe, and the Phoenix people were also shocked and furious when they found out that the geniuses of their tribes had been killed by Longwen in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Ah, Longwen, you bastard! How dare you kill the genius of our tribe? Feng bumming. Today we, the Phoenix people, will not rest until you die. Feng Lilua roared furiously. After Feng, Lilua spoke, the leader of the Merman tribe. Yongshi, the leader of the Dragon tribe, Zonglong, and the leader of the Black Tiger tribe, Husha, also spoke one after another. They vowed to crush Longwen's bones and scatter his ashes. The commotion in the inner city was too great. Not only the disciples of the sorcerer tribe in the inner city, but many of the foreign tribes in the outer city also looked in the direction of the inner city. The scene of Zhuowen crushing Wu Xingyuan in midair was witnessed by most of the experts of the foreign tribes. Oh my God, who is that guy? I think he just killed the top genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. Am I seeing things? You're not seeing things. That guy really did kill Wu Xingyuan. I remember this guy. His name is Longwen. He's a genius from a small tribe that participated in the sorcerer's song gathering. Are you kidding me? A genius from a small tribe can kill Wu Xingyuan. This is unbelievable. The entire sorcerer god city was in an uproar. However, Zhuowen, who was floating in midair, soon landed on the ground. The experts of the foreign tribes in the outer city could not see what happened next. They were in an uproar and wanted to enter the inner city to take a look. Unfortunately, the inner city was surrounded by a powerful forbidding force, and they could not enter. Wu Wuxian stared coldly at Zhuowen, who had landed on the ground. He suppressed his anger and said, Longwen, speak. How did you sneak into the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond? Also, why did you kill Wu Xingyuan and the other geniuses for no reason? Now, give me an explanation, and I'll give you a quick death. Zhuowen looked at Wu Wuxian with a strange look and asked, High Priest, have you not opened the seal on the surface of the spirit ring I gave you during this time? Wu Wuxian was stunned and had a bad feeling. He said coldly, I really didn't expect that your array Dao level would be so good. You can set up such a troublesome, forbidding force on the surface of the spiritual ring. I really haven't been able to crack it. Haha. Since you haven't cracked it, you don't have to waste your effort. The spiritual ring is empty. There's nothing in it. Also, how did I sneak into the ancestral sorcerer magical pond? Don't you have any idea? Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Wu Wuxian's expression changed slightly. She immediately thought of the green-haired mummy. Did that senior let you in? Wu Wuxian said with some fear. What else? How do you think I got in? Zhuowen made up a story. What he said was completely made up on the spot. His entry into the ancestral sorcerer magical pond had nothing to do with the green-haired mummy, but now he needed to take advantage of the situation. Moreover, Zhuowen knew that the green-haired mummy seemed to have been in seclusion for the past few days through his human body. He put all the blame on the green-haired mummy. For a while, even Wu Wuxian could not prove it, which bought him a lot of time. The reason why he said this was mainly because he was afraid of the green-haired mummy and the sorcerer tribe's Saint Master. If not for these two, Zhuowen would have already caused a ruckus in the sorcerer tribe's main hall. After his Pangu's sacred body reached the 8 stars, his strength was very strong. He was sure that his current battle strength could completely destroy a master of Heaven's Passage. He could even fight a master of Heaven's Passage like the sorcerer tribe's Saint Master. Chapter 3372. Beating someone at their own game. What's your relationship with that senior? Wu Wuxian asked fearfully. You don't need to know my relationship with him. All you need to know is that if you kill me, you'll die, Zhuowen said indifferently. Wu Wuxian's eyes darkened. She took out a communication talisman and sent a message to the sorcerer tribe's holy leader. She wanted the sorcerer tribe's holy leader to ask about the relationship between the dragon rune and the green-furred mummy. However, what she received was that the green-furred mummy was in seclusion and no one was allowed to disturb him. Wu Wuxian was helpless. She told the sorcerer tribe's holy leader about the situation here. The holy leader replied that he would come over immediately and did not send any more messages. At this moment, the inner city's array had been activated and the sorcerer tribe experts had surrounded the guarded ground. They all looked at Zhuowen with unfriendly gazes. Zhuowen was not in a hurry. He knew that Wu Wuxian must have informed the sorcerer tribe's holy leader. However, he was not worried. The sorcerer tribe's holy leader was wary of the green-furred mummy. As long as he knew that Su Mo was related to the green-furred mummy, he would not casually attack Su Mo. Although Su Mo's relationship with the green-furred mummy was not friendly, they were enemies. However, the sorcerer tribe's holy leader did not know what their relationship was. He only knew that Su Mo knew the green-furred mummy. As long as the sorcerer tribe's holy leader knew this, he would not act rashly and attack Su Mo Deng. Deng! Deng! The stalemate did not last for long. The doors of the sorcerer tribe's main hall opened once again, and a majestic figure slowly walked out. This was a middle-aged man with sharp eyes like a falcon. He was muscular, and his skin was deep purple. The purple robe he wore complemented his skin perfectly. This man was the current leader of the sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer tribe's holy leader, Wu Shinya. When Wu Shinya appeared, all the foreign races in the square lowered their heads and looked in his direction with respect. Zhuowen also raised his head and looked at Wu Shinya. This was not the first time he had seen Wu Shinya. Back in the sorcerer tribe's main hall, he had seen him once. Wu Shinya's aura was very terrifying. He had heard from the green-haired corpse that Wu Shenya's cultivation should have reached the peak of the Tongtian Lord realm. However, compared to a half-step heaven-crushing cultivator, he was still trash. Otherwise, Wu Shenya would not have acted so respectfully in front of the green-haired corpse back in the sorcerer tribe's great hall. Lord, holy Lord! With Wu Shenya's arrival, Wu Wuxian quickly lowered his head. Corpse Xinhu and the others also became very obedient and didn't dare to say a word. Wu Shenya nodded slightly before he glanced at Zhuowen with a strange look in his eyes. You're called Longwen, right? I clearly remember that you were still in the main hall of the sorcerer tribe. When did you enter the space of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond? With my insignificant abilities, it is naturally impossible for me to enter the space of the wizard's magical pond. But there are people who have the ability to do so. Could it be that the sacred lord didn't think of this? Holy Lord, you don't have to think about forcing me to stay. The reason I came out was because that lord let me leave. My purpose in entering the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond was also that lord's idea. I'm sure you know that, Holy Lord? Zhuowen spoke nonsense without a trace of embarrassment. He was already prepared for a big battle with the sorcerer tribe, so he spoke without any scruples. At most, he would fight. However, Zhuowen's words caused Wu Shenya's pupils to shrink. He sized up Longwen and revealed a thoughtful expression. He thought to himself, that lord came for the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses. Coincidentally, this child was also sent into the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Could it be that what this child said was true? That lord was worried about me and allowed this child to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond to observe? Wu Xinya couldn't make up his mind. When the green-haired corpse took Zhuowen away, he already felt that this child had a deep relationship with the corpse. Now, this feeling was even stronger. Holy Lord, this child is unfilial. He killed Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiran, and Wu Wenbin. He is unscrupulous and unrestrained. This child should be killed. Wu Wuxian said anxiously when he saw Wu Xinya's hesitant expression. Corpse Inma and the others also tried to persuade him. They listed out all the evidence of Zhuowen's crimes. They believed that Long Wen's crimes were too numerous to be recorded. His crimes were unforgivable. Zhuowen silently looked at the people who were trying to persuade Wu Xinya to kill him. His heart was filled with a cold smile. If it wasn't for the green-haired corpse, he would have already caused a ruckus and killed all these people who had ulterior motives. However, he didn't do so now. He wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. If he had the chance in the future, he would visit the nests of these races and teach them a lesson. All right, you don't need to say anything. I have my own decision. Wu Xinya spoke. Everyone was silent and no one dared to make a sound. Longwen, since you have some relationship with that senior, I won't make things difficult for you. However, you still killed 3 of my sorcerer tribe's geniuses. You have to give me an explanation for this. Wu Xinya glared at Zhuowen with an unfriendly gaze. This is easy. That senior already guessed that I might not hold back. He warned me that if I made a huge mistake, he would be responsible for compensation. He will guide you to break through your current shackles and step into the half-step heaven-crushing realm. I wonder if Holy Lord will accept this compensation? Zhuowen began to talk nonsense. Moreover, he could tell from Wu Xinya's expression that the green-haired corpse had come to the sorcerer tribe with a purpose. He could guess that the green-haired corpse had come from the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses in the ancestral sorcerer mystical pond. However, he found it strange. With the green-haired corpse's strength, it could have just taken the corpses by force. Why did it have to wait there? Wu Xinya's pupils shrank. His breathing immediately quickened as he asked, "Are you serious?" In any case, this senior personally told me this. Do you think it's true or not? He doesn't make promises easily. Once he does, it must be something he's confident in. It can't be fake. Zhuowen said seriously, "Ha ha ha. Young Master Long, I misunderstood you before. This is the highest grade token in Sorcerer God City. Those who possess this token have the right to freely enter and exit Sorcerer God City. From now on, this token belongs to you." Wu Xinya was in a good mood. He tossed the token to Zhuowen with an extremely excited expression. Although he had lost 3 monstrous geniuses, he felt that he had not lost out in exchange for a chance to break through. Instead, he had profited from this transaction. Zhuowen caught Wu Xinya's token and lightly sighed in his heart. He cupped his hands at Wu Xinya and said, "Since it's like this, I'll take my leave first. There are many locusts here that annoy me. I can't stay here any longer." After saying this, Zhuowen straightforwardly left the inner city. With this token, he was not stopped from leaving the inner city. Wu Wuxian, Shirin Zhou, and the others' expressions changed greatly. They hurriedly advised Wu Xinya not to be so impulsive. They also listed Long Wen's various crimes and dangers. Wu Xinya sneered and said, "Do you think I don't know? This kid didn't speak the truth just now. I'm just beating him at his own game." Chapter 3373 Encirclement and Suppression. Holy Lord, what do you mean? Wu Wuxian asked suspiciously. What I am not sure of is the relationship between this child and that senior. If what he said is true, then this child's relationship with that senior is not shallow. If we capture this child, won't we be offending that senior? Wu Xinya said indifferently. Wu Wuxian frowned and said, "Holy Lord, even if that is the case, you should not have given such an important token to Long Wen. Isn't that giving Longwen the right to leave Sorcerer God City at any time? He won't be able to escape. That token has a special tracking aura. Apart from me, no one can sense that aura. No matter where Longwen escapes, I will be able to pinpoint his location. Wu Xinya's eyes were filled with confidence. He took out a shining jade strip and handed it to Wu Wuxian. Grand Priest, through this jade strip, you will be able to sense Longwen's location at any time. As long as you discover that Longwen has left Sorcerer God City, arrange for people to kill him. As long as he does not die in Sorcerer God City, even if that senior has a close relationship with this child, it will not be our fault. Wu Wuxian took the jade strip. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. She had wanted to kill Longwen for a long time. If she was not afraid of the green-furred corpse, she would have done it long ago. Now that she had received Wu Xinya's advice, she knew what to do. After Wu Xinya returned to the Sorcerer Tribe's main hall, Wu Wuxian began to secretly send a message to Corpse Yinhu and the other tribe leaders. This Longwen is not simple. We need to temporarily reach an agreement and work together to capture this Longwen. As for this child's secret, we can discuss it after we capture him. Corpse Yinhu's suggestion was approved by the other tribe leaders. They all felt that it was very reasonable. After Zhou left the inner city, he quickly flew towards the inn that he had booked. His expression became more and more serious. The token that Wu Xinya had given him was indeed very useful. However, Zhou's heart grew heavier because he felt that Wu Xinya was too easy to trick. How could he have believed him so easily? He had also used his divine sense to check the token that Wu Xinya had given him. However, he did not find anything out of the ordinary. However, he still felt uneasy, so he planned to put away the array around the inn and leave Sorcerer God City immediately. After Zhuowen returned to the inn, his original human body was trapped on a giant stone pillar in a room deep in the Sorcerer Tribe's palace. The eyes of the main body of the human race flickered, and he muttered in a low voice, "Looks like my avatar has already succeeded. It's time for me to leave." As he said that, the true body of the human race opened up his right palm. On his palm, there was a complicated diagram of a formation. This array pattern was the temporary teleportation array that Zhuowen had prepared long ago. The light from the array on his palm grew brighter and brighter until it was as bright as the sun. Then Zhuowen's entire body emitted a dazzling light. Not long after, Zhuowen's entire body turned into fine specks of light and exploded, disappearing from the room. Not long after the true body of the human race left, the bookshelf deep in the room slowly opened. Behind the bookshelf, there was a deep secret passage. A skinny figure slowly walked out from the secret passage. It was the green-haired mummy. After the green-haired mummy walked out of the secret passage, he immediately felt that something was wrong. He looked at the stone pillar that Zhuowen had been trapped on and frowned. This was because Zhuowen had disappeared. This Zhuowen was actually able to escape from my energy. He's not simple. The green-haired mummy squinted his eyes and muttered to himself. The green-haired mummy did not reveal any expression of shock or anger. Instead, he was rather calm, as if he was not particularly concerned about Zhuowen's escape. He took out a communication talisman and called for the holy leader of the Sorcerer Tribe. "Senior, you've come out of seclusion?" The holy leader of the Sorcerer Tribe, Wu Xinya, said respectfully the moment he entered the room. "Yes, I've just come out of seclusion. The sorcerer song, Gathering, should have ended. Now, you should bring me into the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond to take a look," the green-haired mummy said indifferently. Wu Xinya revealed a bitter smile. He knew that the result that he did not want the most had finally come. It has indeed ended. Wu Xinya braced himself and said, "If that's the case, then lead the way." The green-haired mummy said straightforwardly. Wu Xinya sighed and could only bring the green-haired mummy out of the Sorcerer Tribe's main hall. After walking out of the main hall, Wu Xinya suddenly said, Senior, did you send Longwen into the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond to investigate the situation? The green-haired mummy was stunned and said strangely, "During this period of time, I've been in seclusion. How could I send Longwen into the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond? Moreover, why would I send him in?" Thinking of this, the green-haired mummy's gaze became serious. He said coldly, "You mean that Longwen entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond before?" Wu Xinya nodded and said yes. Longwen also said that you sent him in. Moreover, he said that you have a close relationship with him. Wu Xinya's expression turned ugly. He had already guessed that Longwen was lying through his teeth and deceiving him. "Open the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. I want to go in and take a look at the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses." The green-haired mummy said gloomily. Wu Xinya felt the terrifying aura from the green-haired mummy and did not dare to be careless. He waved his sleeve and opened a path to the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. The green-haired mummy quickly entered with Wu Xinya following closely behind. However, before Wu Xinya entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, he sent a message to the high priest regarding Longwen. At the same time that the green-haired mummy and Wu Xinya entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, the light of a teleportation formation appeared in a room in the inn. Zhuowen's main body was enveloped by the light and slowly appeared in the room. The main body opened its eyes and immediately noticed the black-clothed doppelganger that was already in the room. "We should go." After saying this, the doppelganger returned to the main body's great world. However, just as he was about to leave the inn, the entire inn shook violently as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. When he stepped out of the inn's door, he immediately saw several patriarchs led by Corpse Inmarsh. They were actually working together to attack the formation that he had set up around the inn. Apart from the Corpse Ghoul race's Patriarch Corpse Inmarsh, there was also the Dragon race's Patriarch Zonglong, the Black Tiger race's Patriarch Husha, the Merman race's Patriarch Yongshur, the Phoenix People's Patriarch Feng Lilua, and many other experts from the 5 great races. Apart from that, Zhuowen also saw dozens of patriarchs assisting Corpse Inmarsh and the others in attacking the inn. Chapter 3374. Peerless Killing Formation emerges. Zhuowen had only activated a heaven-piercing formation around the inn, and it was a defensive formation, the Green Garden Jade Formation. Under the combined attacks of so many heaven-piercing masters, it was on the verge of collapsing, as if it would collapse at any moment. Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the Grand Priest, Wu Wuxian, who was hovering in the air and silently observing the situation. He took out the badge that Wu Xinya had given him and said in a deep voice, "Grand Priest, what is the meaning of this? The sacred leader of the sorcerer tribe has already promised that he will not attack me. You are going against the will of the sacred leader of the sorcerer tribe." Wu Wuxian laughed coldly and said, "Longwen, you are very smart. You know how to take advantage of the situation and forcefully establish a relationship with that senior. However, a fake will always be a fake. That senior has already come out of seclusion and denied the relationship you mentioned. Now, the sacred leader has given the order to kill a traitor like you. Haha, Longwen, those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. Today you are dead for sure. There is no need to struggle. Remove this formation and come out to die. You will suffer less." Corpse Inmarsh laughed sinisterly. "Hee, Brother Inmarsh, you are too kind. Even though this formation is quite powerful, it won't be able to last for long under our joint efforts. Break through this formation and tear this bastard apart. Of course, I won't destroy his soul so quickly. I will make him suffer endless suffering and never be able to reincarnate." "Foam," Lila said with a savage expression. The other patriarchs also spoke ruthlessly, thinking that they had Zhuowen in the bag. Zhuo, when silently looked at the group of Empyrean sovereigns, spouting obscenities without batting an eyelid. He looked at the badge in his hand and ignited a terrifying flame in his right hand, destroying the badge. He said indifferently, "Break this formation, and it will be the time of your death. If you do not want to die, or if you are unrelated, you should back off. Otherwise, it will be too late for regrets." Zhuowen's words sounded like a warning, but they immediately caused mocking laughter. The Almighties who had joined forces to attack Zhuowen all laughed. The more they looked down on Zhuowen, the more they felt that Zhuowen was a coward who was afraid of death, stubborn and prideful. The huge commotion had attracted the attention of all the outsiders in Shaman God City. One by one, figures began to gather in this direction. When they saw the patriarchs of the large clans and the 5 patriarchs of the 10 great clans led by Corpse Inmarsh, they were all shocked. So many earthly divine realm experts had joined forces to attack an ordinary-looking inn. Were they crazy? Or was there something incredible in that inn? They also discovered that the experts of the sorcerer tribe were also participating in this alliance. The high priest of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Wuxian, was floating not far away, quietly watching the scene without any intention of interfering. They knew that the sorcerer tribe had tacitly approved of this action. At the same time, they were curious about who had caused such a huge uproar and caused so many earthly divine realm experts to surround and attack him. This was the first time in the history of the Eldritch territory. I heard that it was Longwen, a genius from a small clan. He killed 3 sorcerer tribe geniuses, including Wu Xingyuan, in the space of the sorcerer's magical pond. He also killed Feng Bumming of the Phoenix people, Long Hui of the Dragon tribe, and Hu Tang of the Black Tiger tribe. That's why everyone is angry. It's Longwen. I've heard of him before. His name has spread throughout Shaman God City. This guy killed the #1 genius of the Corpse Ghost tribe, Shifu, at the Sorcerer Song Gathering. How dare he? I remember that he was captured by the Sorcerer tribe and brought back to the main hall of the Sorcerer tribe. How could he enter the sorcerer's magical pond? How strange! All the outsiders were discussing. Most of them shook their heads and sighed. They felt that Longwen was doomed. With so many omnipotent beings joining forces, even a top omnipotent being at the peak of the omnipotent being realm might not be able to withstand them. Longwen was just a genius from a small clan. How could he be a match for so many omnipotent beings? The teams that did not participate in the encirclement of the Moonwolf tribe, the 9-tailed fox tribe, the giant turtle tribe, and the space-time beast tribe stood far away and watched the shocking scene in silence. Longwen is doomed. I didn't expect that he would attract so many omnipotent beings to attack him. They think too highly of him. Tu Qian found it unbelievable. I didn't expect that country bumpkin to be so strong that he would attract so many experts to attack him. Qian Ping, who was standing beside Tu Qian, was stunned. She realized that Longwen was unfathomable. She had misjudged him. However, she sighed in her heart. She knew that Longwen would not be able to survive. This was a horrifying situation where there was no chance of survival. The Moonwolf tribe leader, Yi Taiha, frowned. He felt that it was too much for so many experts to attack him. However, he did not dare to speak up for Zhuowen. If he spoke up, the Moonwolf tribe would be finished. This guy is more talented than Wu Xingyuan. It's a pity that he is going to die here. What a pity! Wu Qiutong sighed. Ever since Wu Xingyuan was defeated by Zhuowen, her view of Zhuowen had changed completely. She even had a strange feeling in her heart. She was born in a large clan and had an obsession with the strong. The strongest person in the younger generation had always been the most suitable candidate to be her cultivation partner. Wu Xingyuan was like that back then, and Zhuowen was like that now. She admired the strong and disdained the weak. Many of the foreign tribes that were watching had the same thought. They felt that it was a pity that a peerless genius like Zhuowen had fallen. Crack! Suddenly, the green garden jade array that was set up around the inn was broken. Dozens of omnipotent beings who were attacking the array rushed in and entered the inn. At the same time, terrifying attacks rained down on Zhuowen's body like dazzling fireworks. They exploded with terrifying light and looked extremely terrifying. One of the omnipotent beings was the first to arrive at the battlefield where Zhuowen was. He saw the figure that was enveloped and knew that he was not completely dead yet. He reached out with his right hand, wanting to grab Zhuowen. However, the moment his right hand reached out, he was greeted by a huge fist. Then, this early-stage omnipotent being's right hand exploded into a bloody mist. This early-stage omnipotent being screamed and hurriedly retreated. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was much faster than him. He rushed out of the explosion and quickly arrived in front of this early-stage omnipotent being. He grabbed this early-stage omnipotent being by the neck. Crack! Zhuowen did not hesitate to break this early-stage omnipotent being's neck. Terrifying energy exploded, and this early-stage omnipotent being's head exploded. His soul was destroyed, and he was casually thrown to the ground by Zhuowen. At the same time, Zhuowen took out a formation flag and threw it out. Instantly, the surrounding scenery changed, and a peerless killing intent surged from the surroundings. Chapter 3375. Slaughter. When Zhuowen unleashed his power and killed an early-stage Transcendence Master, Corpse Yin Huang and the other Almighties had arrived. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they couldn't wait to kill Zhuowen. But soon, they sensed the terrifying murderous aura. Heavens! Are these 3 Transcendence killing arrays? When did this guy set them up? Finally, when someone discovered the exceptional killing formation around them, they cried out in alarm, feeling that this was inconceivable. The killing energy formed by the combination of the 3 killing arrays was too terrifying. 7 or 8 ordinary early-stage Transcendence Masters were instantly annihilated by the killing energy. The other Transcendence Masters were suppressed by the killing energy. Their bodies trembled, and their eyes were filled with fear. The moment the 3 supreme killing formations were activated, Zhuowen made his move. He suddenly bent his body, and his body emitted cracking sounds as he shot out, instantly arriving beside an early-stage Transcendence Master. Rumble! He smashed out with a fist. It was like a blazing sun that erupted, dazzling and resplendent. Suppressed by the killing arrays, the early-stage Transcendence Master's body burst into a bloody mist. He was extremely weak and panting heavily. He didn't have much strength to resist it all before he was smashed into a bloody mist by Zhuowen's punch. After killing the early-stage Transcendence Master, Zhuowen's feet moved like the wind. He moved like a ghost in the killing arrays, and his speed was as fast as lightning. One early-stage Transcendence Master after another was killed by him. Miserable screams rang out in the array. When Zhuowen killed the last early-stage Transcendence Master, there were only 20 Transcendence Masters left in the array. Most of them were mid-stage Transcendence Masters or above. Corpse Yin Huang and the other 3 late-stage Empyrean lords narrowed their eyes as they stared at the figure bathed in the rain of blood from the Empyrean lords. Their hearts couldn't help but tremble. Within the 3 peerless killing formations, they were ruthlessly suppressed. Although it was not to the extent of being unable to move an inch, their movements within the killing array were indeed greatly affected. They simply could not keep up with Zhuowen's pace and could only allow Zhuowen to slaughter to his heart's content. Whoosh! Zhuowen attacked once more. This time his target was the leader of one of the major clans. He was a mid-Heavenspan Lord and was much stronger than an early Heavenspan Lord. The Patriarch's expression changed slightly, but he still braced himself and charged forward, throwing a punch at Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered. His right hand formed a palm and blasted out as well. The Patriarch spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed to the ground. Zhuowen stood in the air without moving. He condensed a snow-white light blade in his hand and threw it out. It pierced through the Patriarch's chest and nailed him to the ground, making him unable to move. He could only lie on the ground, deader than dead. Everyone, we can't fight on our own. We have to work together. Otherwise, we will be defeated one by this kid. Suddenly, the Yang Tongue Union, who was not far away, spoke. There were a total of 5 experts from the sorcerer tribe. 4 of them were experts at the early stage of the sky-reaching Master Realm, but they had already been killed by Zhuowen. Now, there was only 1 expert at the middle stage of the sky-reaching Master Realm left. The Yang Tongue Union was terrified when he saw that many of his companions had been killed. He knew that he had to work together to take down this kid. Moreover, they were all trapped by the killing array, and their strength was suppressed too much. If they did not work together, they would all be finished. The Yang Tongue Union, you are jumping very high. Since you spoke first, I will attack you first. Zhuowen looked coldly at the Yang Tongue Union. He stomped his right foot, and the space around him suddenly distorted. He disappeared from where he was and instantly appeared in front of the Yang Tongue Union. He clenched his right hand into a fist, which emitted a jade-like light. Zhuowen raised the power of his Pangu sacred body to the extreme. It had to be said that after Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body was promoted, it had almost undergone a transformation. Its level of power had reached another level, which was very terrifying. The Yang Tongue Union tried their best to resist this attack, but it was still useless. The Yang Tongue Union's hands were broken, and his chest was penetrated. Blood spurted out, and it was very sad. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He pressed his left hand on the Yang Tongue Union's head, and his right hand tore fiercely. The Yang Tongue Union's entire body collapsed and exploded into clouds of blood mist. He was completely dead. The moment the Yang Tongue Union died, many experts trapped in the killing array were shocked. The Yang Tongue Union was an expert of the sorcerer tribe with a powerful bloodline. His strength was stronger than an ordinary mid-heaven-span lord, but he was killed so easily. How terrifying was Long Wen's strength! Swoosh! 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 Another 4 mid-heaven-span lords rushed over, wanting to kill Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered, took out the Yama ghost picture, opened the second layer, and 4 evil spirits rushed out. Howl! 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 The 4 evil spirits rushed out like crazy, blocking the 4 mid-heaven-span lords and suppressing them. Zhuowen's body was surrounded by a jade-like color. While the 4 evil spirits were entangled, he condensed 4 sky-splitting blades and threw them out, piercing through the 4 experts and reducing their combat strength. At the same time, Zhuowen strengthened the power of the 3 killing arrays. The surrounding killing intent became more and more terrifying, and the experts trapped in the arrays were even more difficult to move. The 4 mid-heaven-span lords were pierced through by the sky-splitting blades and lost most of their combat strength. In the end, they were torn to pieces and devoured by the 4 evil spirits. Long Wen, die for me! The veins on Sherinzhou's forehead bulged. The 5 late heaven-span lords led by him channeled all their energy and rushed toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't give them the chance. He was still wary of these 5 people. After all, they were all late heaven-span lords. Even if Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body had advanced to 8 stars and his strength had undergone a tremendous transformation, he could at most suppress a late heaven-span lord, but he was still far from being able to kill them. Now, there were 5 late heaven-span lords in front of him. Although they were suppressed by the killing arrays and couldn't use their full strength, they were still very difficult for Zhuowen to deal with when they joined forces. Therefore, Zhuowen planned to wait until the other powerhouses in the killing formation were annihilated before finally battling with these 5 people. Now is not the time to fight you. I'll let the 5 of you live a little longer. Zhuowen swept out like a loach, distancing himself from the 5. The 5 of them were helpless. They were suppressed too badly by the killing arrays, and their speed was far slower than Zhuowen's. Moreover, Zhuowen's speed was not slower than theirs. Under such circumstances, it would be strange if they could catch up with Zhuowen. Chapter 3376. The 5 clan leaders when Zhuowen tore apart the last Tongtian master with his bare hands. He turned around and looked at the corpse-eaten swamp not far away. He grinned and said, "Now it's your turn." At that moment, all the foreign race experts who were watching this scene were shocked. They looked at the figure bathed in the rain of blood of the Grand Master Realm cultivators and the mountainous pile of corpses under his feet. Everyone felt incredulous. The mountain of corpses were not ordinary corpses. They were all Tongtian masters. And these Tongtian masters were all killed by one person. This world was too crazy. This kind of thing was happening right in front of their eyes. The Moon Wolf clan, Giant Turtle clan, and other clan leaders who did not participate in the encirclement were dumbfounded when they saw the scene. At the same time, they heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. They were glad that they did not participate in the encirclement. Otherwise, they doubted whether they would have survived this battle. Long Wen is too scary. You are not to provoke him in the future. Otherwise, you will bring disaster to our clan. The Moon Wolf clan leader, Itaiha, said to Tu Qian and Qian Ping beside him. Tu Qian and Qian Ping were already stunned. They nodded subconsciously. Even without Itaiha's reminder, they did not dare to provoke Long Wen. Didn't they see how this guy had killed dozens of heavenly masters earlier on? Those were all existences at the level of the clan leaders of the various major races, and were much stronger than them. Not only the Moon Wolf clan, but the clan leaders of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Giant Turtle clan, and other clans also quickly ordered their subordinates to remember Long Wen's appearance and not to provoke him in the future. Wu Wuxian was so angry that she clenched the scepter in her hand tightly. She stared at the scene that was happening in the 3 killing formations, especially when she saw Zhuowen crush the Yongjia master to death. She was fuming with anger. However, Wu Wuxian did not lose her composure. Instead, she began to deduce, trying to break the 3 killing formations. What made her vexed was that the combination of these 3 peerless killing formations was truly seamless. It was impossible for her to crack it in a short period of time. She was a little anxious in her heart. At the same time, she became more and more fearful of Long Wen. This fellow's level in the array Dao was actually so strong that he could actually set up such a terrifying chain-killing array. It was truly beyond her expectations. This is truly inconceivable. To think that Long Wen would be able to kill so many omnipotent beings single-handedly. Is that fella truly a genius from some small race? Not to mention the geniuses of the small races, even the geniuses of the large races, or even the geniuses of the super large races like the 10 great races, are far from being able to do what Long Wen did. Mother asterisk Kerr, he killed so many omnipotent experts in a row. He's going to poke a hole in the sky. Many outsider experts in Sorcerer God City were dumbfounded. They looked at Zhuowen with awe and fear. At this moment, only the clan leader of the Corp School clan, Shirin Zhou, the clan leader of the Phoenix people, Feng Lilua, the clan leader of the Black Tiger clan, Husha, the clan leader of the Dragon clan, Zonglong, and the clan leader of the Merman clan, Yongshi, were left inside the peerless killing formation. The 5 of them were all late-stage omnipotent beings. In the primitive celestial realm, they were all peerless experts who could look down on a region. Zhuowen glanced at Feng Lilua of the Phoenix people. What surprised him was that among the Phoenix people, only Feng Lilua had participated in the encirclement. However, Grand Elder Muyu and Third Elder and Yen were not among them. He had not even seen the 2 of them in Sorcerer God City. This made Zhuowen's expression turn ugly. Grand Elder Muyu and Third Elder and Yen were the culprits who knew about Mu Qinshue's whereabouts. He had to capture the 2 of them and interrogate them about Mu Qinshue's whereabouts. However, he did not expect that Grand Elder Muyu and Third Elder and Yen were not in Sorcerer God City. He had guessed that the 2 of them might have been sent back to the Phoenix people by Feng Lilua. After all, the Phoenix people had just been heavily injured by him. They were still in the ascendant and needed someone to organize and rebuild. Feng Lilua had placed all her attention on him. She wanted to scheme against him, so she stayed behind to deal with him. As for the Grand Elder and Third Elder, They were naturally sent back to their sect to clean up after him. The four of you. This kid must have a big secret. If we continue to let him stay, there will be endless trouble in the future. Corpse Yinmarsh's eyes were gloomy as he reminded the other four in a low voice. Brother Yinmarsh is right. This kid's progress is too fast. We have all offended him. With his personality, I'm afraid he will cause trouble for our clan. If we don't get rid of him now, it will be even more difficult in the future. We might even suffer a calamity. Everyone, if you have any trump cards, don't hide them. Take them out and take him down. Fong Lilua said. The other three nodded. They agreed with Corpse Yinmarsh and Fong Lilua. The dragon rune must be removed. Otherwise, it would be a great disaster for them. The five of them all took out their own natal divine artifacts. Corpse Yinmarsh's natal divine artifact was a crystal skull. There was a crack between the skull's eyebrows. A slender red crystal was embedded in the crack. It looked like a third eye. It was very strange. Fong Lilua took out a fan that burned with flames. The fan's blades were made of burning fire plume. It gave off a vast aura. The dragon clan's patriarch, Zonglong, revealed his half-dragon, half-human form. A sharp golden armor that emitted golden light appeared on his body. It was dazzling and extraordinary. The Black Tiger clan's patriarch, Husha, held a large saber in his hand. On the wide surface of the saber, there was a vivid tiger pattern. Moreover, the saber emitted a sound like a tiger roaring in the forest. It was very spiritual. As for the Merfolk clan's patriarch, Yongshur, his natal divine artifact was a huge hammer. However, there were various patterns on the hammer's surface. It had an extraordinary aura. The natal divine artifacts of the five of them were all extraordinary. They were all heaven-connecting divine artifacts. Furthermore, they were all extraordinary and extremely powerful. Zhuowen brought the four evil spirits with him. Looking at the five of them, his gaze became rather stern. Go. Corpse Yinmarsh roared furiously. He took a step forward and took out the crystal skull. A vast amount of Yin Qi surged over like a tide, enveloping Zhuowen. The moment Zhuowen came in contact with the Yin Qi, he actually felt dizzy. Many illusions appeared before his eyes. Shi Yen knew that the crystal skulls in the Corpse Yin swamp were designed to deal with the god soul, because many phantoms of skulls had appeared in his god soul space. They were eating the energy of his god soul, trying to destroy it. The other four followed, closely behind. They all took out their natal divine artifacts. However, the four evil spirits by Zhuowen's side received Zhuowen's orders. They charged out recklessly and blocked the four of them. However, the four evil spirits were only at the mid-heaven connecting divine artifact, after all. Although Fong Lilua and the others had become much weaker due to the killing formation, they were still able to firmly suppress the four evil spirits. Most likely, it wouldn't be long before the four evil spirits were defeated or even killed. Ha! You've fallen into my illusions of infinite fear. Longwen, I won't let you die so easily. Chapter 3377.1 Against Forbang. The moment Corpse Yinmarsh's right hand clawed at Zhuowen, his entire body trembled. He suddenly felt an ominous premonition that made him break out in cold sweat. Then he looked up at Zhuowen. He saw that the dullness in Zhuowen's eyes had long disappeared and was replaced by a cold clarity. Moreover, a golden light suddenly shot out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows. The golden light took the shape of a sword and pierced through the air, instantly drilling into the depths of Corpse Yinmarsh's sea of consciousness. Ah! Corpse Yinmarsh screamed and covered his head with both hands. He quickly retreated. His divine soul had been turned upside down by the sword-shaped golden light, and he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. The sword-shaped golden light was the divine soul sword essence that Zhuowen had just learned. It was extremely powerful. With his current strength, the divine soul sword essence was enough to cause great damage to an expert in the late stage of sky-reaching master. After all, he had absorbed the 3 venomous insects. Not only had he evolved his Panga's sacred body, but he had also perfected the Panga banner in his divine soul. The Panga banner had also fed back to his divine soul, causing Zhuowen's divine soul to undergo another transformation. The transformation of his divine soul naturally caused the divine soul sword essence that Zhuowen had learned to become even more terrifying and powerful. When Corpse Yinmarsh's divine soul was severely injured and he kept retreating, Zhuowen had already rushed out like lightning and arrived in front of Corpse Yinmarsh. He snatched the crystal skull and spiritual ring from Corpse Yinmarsh's hand and punched Corpse Yinmarsh's chest with his right fist. Corpse Yinmarsh was trying his best to resist the injury to his divine soul, so he had no time to resist Zhuowen's attack. He was hit hard and spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell from the sky like a withered butterfly and hit the ground hard. The moment Corpse Yinmarsh fell to the ground, Zhuowen condensed 5 sky-splitting blades and shot them out. 4 of the sky-splitting blades pierced Corpse Yinchi's limbs, while the last one pierced Corpse Yinchi's forehead and exploded. Corpse Yinchi let out a blood-curdling scream as his head exploded. Just like that, he was killed. When Corpse Yinmarsh was killed, Feng Lilua, Husha, Zonglong, and Yongshi had finished dealing with the 4 demons. They turned Yama, Ghost Translation, the translation. Translation, 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 translation. Translation, Yinmarsh, translation, translation. When the 4 of them planned to chase after Longwen again, they saw the scene of Corpse Yin Swamp being forcefully killed. They were all stunned and felt that it was too inconceivable. Translation, 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 U4. Zhuo Wen's entire body was sparkling and translucent, as if he was forged from pure jade. The aura that erupted from his body was extremely terrifying. It seemed as if it could tear apart this part of the world. After he finished saying those words, he took a step into the air and brought forth a terrifying wave of air. He continued to rush toward Feng Lilua and the others. Corpse Yinchi was the strongest of the 5, a late-stage heavenly master. He was also the existence that Zhuowen feared the most. Therefore, he had used his soul and sword intent as his trump card from the very beginning. After all, he had only condensed 2 soul sword essences in his soul. Now that he had used one, if he wanted to condense another one, he would have to spend a lot of energy and effort. After dealing with the Corpse Yinmarsh, Zhuowen could finally let go of the knot in his heart. He was confident that he could fight against the 4 of them by himself. Arrogant, he actually wants to fight 1 against 4, like an egg striking a stone. Feng Lilua was the first to react. She knew that the 4 of them had to work together. Otherwise, it was impossible for them to be Long Wen's opponent. At the same time, Feng Lilua began to regret targeting Longwen. He had even destroyed the Corpse Yin Swamp. His potential and strength were too terrifying. If he had not offended Longwen, perhaps he would not have ended up like this. However, Feng Lilua also knew that he and Longwen would not rest until one of them was dead. If Longwen did not die, he would die. Thinking up to there, Feng Lilua suddenly summoned the flaming fan in her hand. Terrifying flames surged out, forming an enormous figure of a flaming phoenix that seemed to blot out the sky. The merfolk patriarch, Yongshi, wielded a huge hammer. Violent lightning energy surged on the surface of the hammer. He quickly appeared 100 meters behind Zhuowen. With a swing of the hammer, lightning filled the air and splashed everywhere. It seemed to have turned into a terrifying lightning storm. At the same time that Feng Lilua and Yongshi used their natal god artifacts to attack Zhuowen from afar, the patriarch of the dragon clan, Zonglong, charged toward Zhuowen in his half-dragon, half-human form. He was clad in golden armor that shone with golden light. He was like a god clad in golden armor that had descended. He planned to engage in a melee with Zhuowen. Bang! 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 The two of them instantly clashed. Terrifying auras burst out. In just a few breaths, they had exchanged dozens of blows. The resulting shock waves broke through the surrounding space and broke the rules. Zhuo Wen let out a low roar and suddenly smashed a fist into Zonglong's chest. Zonglong let out a muffled groan and flew out. The defensive power of his golden armor was just too shocking. Zhuo Wen's punch had only injured him slightly. At this moment, Feng Liluo and Yongshi's attacks had already arrived before Zhuo Wen. The lightning storm and the flaming phoenix intertwined, forming a terrifying lightning and fire energy. The entire space was stirred up, tearing apart countless black holes. The moment Zhuo Wen saw the flaming phoenix and the lightning storm attacking from both sides, he summoned Xiao He from his great world. "Kid, why did you summon me?" Xiao He asked curiously as soon as she appeared. "I'm going to give you a good fortune. Go and absorb all the lightning and fire energy around here." Zhuo Wen used the profound creation mysterious light to resist the terrifying lightning and fire energy around him. He pointed at the surroundings and said to Xiao He, F***CK. "Kid, are you trying to trick me? Such a powerful lightning and fire energy is at least the full force attack of a master of heaven's late-stage expert. Why the hell are you asking me to absorb it?" Xiao He screamed. Zhuo Wen ignored Xiao He's screams and kicked him out. He had given this guy so many resources. This guy had already advanced to the master of heaven's late stage. He might have even reached the middle stage of the master of heaven's late stage. In addition, the Thunderfire Sword was a divine weapon born from the lightning and fire. It had a natural restraint against the lightning and fire energy. The surrounding lightning and fire energy was not a problem for this guy at all. "Brett, you're a bastard. You're pushing me into a pit of fire." Xiao He cursed. However, after this guy rushed into the lightning and fire energy, his body was very honest. He began to absorb the lightning and fire energy crazily. Zhuo Wen silently looked at Xiao He absorbing the lightning and fire energy. After confirming that this guy was indeed fine, he waved his right hand and tore the lightning and fire energy barrier around him. "Dai Long Wen." The moment Zhuo Wen tore the lightning and fire barrier apart and came out, a terrifying saber chi came straight at him and blasted his body. Zhuo Wen snorted coldly and suddenly threw a punch, colliding with Tiger Shah's broadsword. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Tiger Shah looked at Zhuo Wen's fist in disbelief as it blocked his saber. Zhuo Wen's fist was not damaged at all. Instead, it was like a beautiful jade, crystal clear and flawless. His attack did not leave any mark on the fist at all. Chapter 33, 78, The Death of Tiger Shah spat out blood and flew backward. The broadsword in his hand almost slipped out of his hand and was taken into Zhuo Wen's macro world. At this moment, Tiger Shah was in great pain. Zhuo Wen's Pengu's sacred body was a combination of 8 types of venomous insects. The power of 8 different attributes was wreaking havoc in his body, causing him great pain. He was barely able to suppress it. Feng Liluo and Yongshi, who were standing not far away, looked gloomy. Their joint attack did not cause too much damage to Yi Futian. They were shocked and in a bad mood. However, the two of them were not discouraged. They continued to wave the divine weapons in their hands. The energy of thunder and fire poured out again and swept towards Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen did not want to play with the two of them. He had to kill one of them first. It was not a good thing to waste time with the 4 of them. Zhuo Wen's target was Tiger Killer. Tiger Shah was the weakest among the 4 of them. His divine weapon was taken away, and he had lost more than half of his combat power. He was the least threat to Yi Futian. Thinking of this, Zhuo Wen disappeared from where he was. Everywhere he passed, the space collapsed. He was heading straight for Tiger Shah. "Stay here." Zonglong's body was glowing with golden light. He stopped Zhuo Wen halfway and swung his huge dragon tail at Zhuo Wen. The wind was blowing and the light was boundless. Do you really think I can't cut off your dragon tail? Zhuowen's eyes were cold. At the same time, he used the profound meaning, death of heaven and earth and the sky-splitting blade. A huge light blade was condensed in his hands. The surface of the light blade was filled with the destructive aura of death of heaven and earth, making the power of the light blade reach a terrifying level. Zhuowen slashed out fiercely. The saber chi was earth-shattering. Zonglong's huge dragon tail had just arrived in front of Zhuowen when it met the terrifying light blade. Puchi! Zonglong's huge dragon rune was cut off by the light blade. Golden blood spilled all over the sky like golden rain. Zonglong screamed. His dragon tail was cut off. His body, which was suspended in the air, lost its balance and immediately fell down. Zhuowen would not let Zonglong go. He threw the light blade with the destructive aura in his hand. The light blade was pointed at Zonglong's chest. Bang! What made Zhuowen's the fact that the death of heaven and earth was death of heaven and earth was the fact that the light blade with the death of heaven and earth could not penetrate Zonglong's golden armor. Zonglong Zong's was calm. Translation. Translation Zong. Translation. Zhuowen had exerted the power of the 8-star Pangu sacred body to the extreme. Bearing the injuries caused by the full-strength attacks of the two masters at the late stage of the sky-reaching realm, Zhuowen rushed to Tiger Sha. Tiger Sha kept retreating until he reached the edge of the killing formation. While suppressing the injuries on his body, he also had to resist the killing energy of the killing formation around him. He was a little tired. Now that he saw Zhuowen coming, he naturally did not dare to face him alone. You can't escape. You will die here today. The Corpsine Swamp will be your fate. Zhuowen's eyes were full of killing intent. He arrived in front of Tiger Sha and punched him mercilessly. He used the power of the death of heaven and earth in this punch. The destructive aura hit Tiger Sha in the face, making him fearful. Tiger Sha circulated all the energy in his body and pushed out with both hands. He wanted to completely block Zhuowen's attack. Crack! Unfortunately, Tiger Sha, who was seriously injured, was nothing in front of Zhuowen. His hands were crushed by Zhuowen's punch. Zhuowen's fist was like a rainbow that pierced through the sun. It penetrated Tiger Sha's chest and exploded. Tiger Sha's chest was separated. Long Wen, you're dead. Feng, Lilua, and Yongshi saw that Tiger Sha was almost killed. They were enraged and attacked with all their strength again. The thunderstorm and the flaming phoenix intertwined again. This time, the attack was even more terrifying and shocking. The lightning and fire energy it produced formed terrifying whirlpools in the air one after another. They were distributed in every part of the space. Even the 3 chains of supreme killing formations in the surroundings were shaken by this terrifying energy. Zhuowen's face slightly changed. He suddenly grabbed the head of Tiger Sha, who only had half of his body left, and threw him out. Tiger Sha was miserably thrown into the terrifying thunderfire energy by Zhuowen. Tiger Sha didn't last long before he was turned to dust by the terrifying thunderfire energy. Xiao Hei, come and help me block it. The moment Zhuowen threw Tiger Sha, he waved his right sleeve and summoned Xiao Hei, who had just finished absorbing the thunderbolt and fire energy back. He told Xiao Hei to throw him into the thunderbolt and fire energy that was about to descend. Damn it, kid, you're going to make me miserable today, aren't you? Xiao Hei kept cursing as he was thrown into the thunderbolt and fire energy by Zhuowen. He screamed again and again. Although Xiao Hei looked miserable, the thunderbolt and fire energy did not destroy him. On the contrary, the thunderbolt and fire sword became more tenacious under the burning of the thunderbolt and fire energy. Its aura also became more and more vast. There were faint signs of a breakthrough. Zhuowen knew that although this guy kept screaming, he must be feeling comfortable. To Xiao Hei, the thunderbolt and fire energy was nourishment, not a destructive factor. This guy had a cheap mouth. He wanted to be a whore, but still wanted to make a monument to his chastity. After all, Xiao Hei's thunderbolt and fire sword needed powerful thunderbolt and fire energy to continuously evolve. Feng, Lilua, and Yongshi were both at the late stage of the sky-piercing realm. The thunderbolt and fire energy they released was of a very high level. To Xiao Hei, it was the best nourishment. It was very beneficial for its evolution. Zhuowen no longer paid attention to Xiao Hei, who was still screaming. The space under his feet distorted, and he disappeared from where he was, avoiding the thunderbolt and fire energy that was attacking him. He went straight for Feng, Lilua, and arrived in front of him in an instant. At that moment, Feng Lilua was controlling the flame fan, constantly urging the flames to attack Zhuowen. However, when he saw Zhuowen appear in front of him, it was as if he had seen a ghost, and he quickly retreated. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was much faster than him. His right hand shot out like lightning. Bang! Feng Lilua was a little panicked. He raised the flame fan, wanting to block Zhuowen's attack. Unfortunately, his strength was not much better than Hu Sha's. Under Zhuowen's attack, the flame fan was directly sent flying. His right hand turned into a long fist and smashed into Feng Lilua's chest like a hot knife through butter. Puchi! Feng Lilua's chest was penetrated. Red blood splashed out, sprinkling in the sky, forming a red rain of blood. It was a miserable and clear scene. Feng Lilua screamed. He burned his essence blood and quickly retreated. Unfortunately, the 3 peerless killing formations at the edge blocked his retreat. He could not retreat at all, and could only retreat to the edge of the killing formations. Chapter 3379. Fear Bang! 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 Feng Lilua seemed to have gone mad as he kept attacking the edge of the killing formation. However, he found that it was useless. His right fist was bleeding from the energy of the killing formation. A powerful killing aura invaded Feng Lilua's body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His body was bathed in blood, and he looked extremely miserable. Zhuowen's right foot was in the air as he swooped down proudly. He landed beside Feng Lilua, and his right hand was like lightning as he slammed his palm onto Feng Lilua's body. Puchi! Feng Lilua was in a very miserable state. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was unbelievably pale. His waist arched as he was sent flying. He heavily smashed into the formation behind him, and his internal organs seemed to have been shattered. His body seemed to have been hollowed out as he fell to the ground. Zhuowen waved his right hand, and a powerful energy turned into a rope that tightly bound Feng Lilua. Then, he threw him into the great world. He did not immediately kill Feng Lilua. To him, Feng Lilua still had some value. It was too early to kill him now. Boom! The moment he trapped Feng Lilua, a terrifying gust of wind swept past him from behind. The gust of wind swept across the area. Zhuowen turned around and punched out. He saw that the gale behind him was actually the Dragon Clan's patriarch. Zonglong was wearing golden armor, and his right fist was like lightning. As the 2 fists collided, a terrifying shockwave burst forth. Powerful shockwaves swept out, and Zonglong let out a muffled groan as he was sent flying by Zhuowen once again, crashing heavily into the ground. Zhuowen looked at Zonglong's golden armor in surprise. He had to admit that Zonglong's golden armor was very unusual. The power of his 8-star Pangu sacred body could not directly injure Zonglong. Most of the power was absorbed and blocked by the golden armor. The moment Zonglong fell to the ground, he wanted to immediately jump up. However, Zhuowen was faster than him. He kicked Zonglong's chest and stomped him to the ground again. Zonglong roared and struggled. Unfortunately, under Zhuowen's powerful strength, all of his efforts were in vain. I'll deal with you later. You don't have to rush to your death. After Zhuowen finished speaking, he stomped his right foot again, concentrating all his strength on his right foot. Puchi! Zonglong spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were wide open, as if they were going to pop out. His eyes were bloodshot, and the place where he was lying on the ground cracked open, creating a very deep pit. Of course, this pit was also a human-shaped pit. Zhuowen no longer paid any attention to the heavily injured Zhong Long. He slowly lifted his gaze and looked at Yongshi, the leader of the merfolk race. At this moment, Yongshi held the thunder hammer in his hand and was fighting with the thunder fire sword. Xiao He wasn't satisfied after absorbing the lightning and fire energy. When she saw the thunder hammer in Yongshi's hand, her eyes lit up. Like a bolt of lightning, she pounced at Yongshi and engaged him in battle. Zhuowen was very surprised. Although Xiao Hei's strength was extraordinary, there was still a gap between him and Yongshi, who was in the late stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. Why was this guy so eager to fight Yongshi? However, Zhuowen's face darkened when he heard Xiao Hei's next words. "Old man, your thunder hammer is not bad. If you don't mind, let me have a look." "Old man, what are you doing?" "I'm just borrowing it to have a look. It's not like I'm going to eat it." "Why are you so stingy?" "Io, you're really merciless. You actually electrocuted me. But I like it. Continue electrocuting me. It'd be best if you electrocuted me to death." When Zhuowen heard Xiao Hei's shameless words, he felt embarrassed. This guy really had no filter and dared to say anything. However, although Xiao Hei wasn't Yongshi's match, he happened to be able to restrain Yongshi's divine weapon. Although he was severely suppressed by Yongshi, it would still be difficult for Yongshi to get rid of Xiao Hei completely. On the contrary, every time Yongshi blasted out lightning energy, Xiao Hei would open his mouth and absorb it, turning it into his own energy. Bang! Xiao Hei was sent flying again, wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. Zhuowen rushed over and caught the thunder fire sword in his hand. "Kid, you're finally here. This hammer is really important to me. You must help me get it. I need to nourish my body." Xiao Hei hurriedly said, "You should go back to the outside world first. You'll get a share of the divine weapon this time." Zhuowen said indifferently. Xiao Hei revealed a look of joy and hurriedly said, "Then I'll leave it to you. I'll go in first." Zhuowen ignored Xiao Hei. Instead, he looked at Yongshi, whose eyes were filled with fear. He said indifferently, "Hand over the god artifact in your hand and cripple your own cultivation. That way, you still have a chance to live." Yongshi's eyes narrowed, but he laughed and said, "You want me to hand over the divine weapon and destroy my own cultivation? Longwen, who do you think you are? Do you have the right to talk to me like this? It seems like I'm talking nonsense. In that case, I won't say anything more. Die." Zhuowen shook his head and stomped his right foot. His whole body was crystal clear, and his aura was like a dragon. Yongshi's eyes changed slightly, and the thunder hammer in his hand suddenly blasted out toward Zhuowen's face. Clusters of lightning fell like rain, and suddenly dispersed, enveloping Zhuowen in all directions and enveloping Zhuowen. But soon, Yongshi found that the countless thunderbolts from the thunder hammer dissipated the moment they came into contact with Zhuowen's body. They could not cause much damage to Zhuowen at all. "Your body, how can it be so strong?" Yongshi's eyes narrowed and he roared. The huge hammer smashed hard on Zhuowen's face. Bang! Zhuowen attacked later than Yongshi. He punched out, and the powerful fist momentum burst out. The hammer, wrapped in monstrous thunderbolts, was directly smashed away. Yongshi's hands, which were holding the hammer, were directly shaken by the huge force. His huge body could not help but retreat. Boom! Zhuowen's right hand formed a fist, and he stepped in front of Yongshi. The fist momentum burst out with a muffled explosion, and it smashed between Yongshi's eyebrows. Yongshi raised his hands to block the attack. However, under the terrifying power of the Pengu's sacred body, his defense was simply a joke. His arms were blasted into a bloody mist. The fist smashed between his eyebrows and directly blew up his head. Yongshi didn't even have the chance to groan before Zhuowen punched him to death. After Zhuowen slowly put away the thunderhammer, he turned to look at Zonglong, who was struggling to climb out of the pit. At this moment, the golden armor on the surface of Zonglong's body was dim, and the corner of his mouth was bleeding. His aura was very weak. He raised his head and saw the scene of Zhuowen killing Yongshi with one punch. His eyes were full of fear. Only now did he realize that Longwen, who he was dealing with, was simply a monster. They had been besieged by so many experts of the sky-reaching realm. But not only had they not killed him, but they had also let him kill so many of them. In the end, he was the only one left, and he was in a half-dead state. As the patriarch of the Dragon Clan, Zonglong was the top expert of one of the top 10 clans in the untainted heavenly realm. He looked down on the world and all living beings. But now Zonglong felt a deep chill, and the source of this chill was Longwen. Chapter 30, 380. Get down, Lord Longwen. I, Zonglong, am willing to surrender. Please spare my life. Please spare my life. Zonglong hurriedly knelt down and begged for mercy. Zhuowen slowly walked in front of Zonglong and looked at the golden armor on Zonglong's body. He didn't attack immediately. Instead, he asked curiously, "Take off your spirit ring and this golden armor. Then break your own arms. If you do that, I will spare your life and not care about the Dragon Clan behind you." Zonglong let out a sigh of relief. Without hesitation, he took off his spirit ring and golden armor and handed them to Zhuowen respectfully. Zhuowen very naturally put Zonglong's spirit ring and golden armor into his great world. He also put away the 3 peerless killing formations around the inn and kicked Zonglong out. After being kicked out, Zonglong was not angry at all. He even cupped his hands and apologized to Zhuowen, then left with his face covered in dirt. Zhuowen no longer paid any attention to Zonglong. He pushed off the ground with his right foot and leaped onto the inn. He lifted his head and looked at High Priest Wu Wuxian, who was hovering in the air nearby. He said in an indifferent voice, "Wu Wuxian, get down here and die." It was a simple sentence, but at this moment, in this place and in this person, it was extraordinary and solemn. Many of the foreign race experts were stunned. They stared blankly at the figure who had stepped on the bodies of dozens of divine master experts and leaped up to the top of the inn. They felt incredulous, terrified, and even a little excited. What a magnificent feat it was to kill so many legendary, earthly divine masters, all by himself. Such a thing had never happened in the primitive sky domain for countless years, but now it was happening right in front of them. It was a guy named Longwen who had acted it out right in front of them. In particular, the last sentence of Longwen's speech to High Priest Wu Wuxian was like a fuse that completely shocked all the experts of the alien races. He had killed so many experts in the Sorcerer God City. Not only did he not escape, but he also provoked the High Priest Wu Wuxian. He did not take the Sorcerer tribe seriously at all. Longwen, you are very bold. Not only did you kill people in the Sorcerer God City, but you also dare to provoke me and the dignity of the Sorcerer tribe. Do you not take the Sorcerer tribe seriously at all? You even want to kill me? Wu Wuxian said coldly, "Old witch, I have not liked you for a long time. What you said before was all for your own selfish reasons. You want to catch me and steal my things. You don't even want your face. Why should I be polite with you?" Zhuowen's eyes were cold, and his words made Wu Wuxian so angry that his lungs were about to explode. "What did you say I am an old witch? How dare you?" Wu Wuxian roared. "Wu God, old witch," he said, "if you then get down here and die. Don't force me to step on you before you are willing to get down here," Zhuowen said rudely. All the foreign experts sucked in a breath of cold air. Longwen really had guts. He had already broken the rules of Shaman God City by killing so many experts. Now he was even shouting at Wu Wuxian. To be so arrogant in front of the Sorcerer tribe's trump card was a slap to the Sorcerer tribe's face. Many of the foreign race experts knew that Wu Wuxian's strength might not be comparable to Corpsine Chi's, but with her powerful array skills, even a late-stage Heaven Ascension realm expert might not be her match. Wu Wuxian's status was extremely noble. She was second only to the sorcerer tribe's holy leader. Many of the leaders of the large tribes had to be respectful to her. Now, not only was Longwen not afraid of the sorcerer tribe, but he had also asked Wu Wuxian to get down here and die. Although Wu Wuxian was furious, she had not lost her mind. She knew very well that, although she was strong, she was still a little weaker than Longwen. Therefore, although she was angry, she did not dare to fight with Zhuowen. She secretly sent a message to the holy leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Shinya. After informing him of the situation, she retreated cautiously. Zhuowen watched as Wu Wuxian retreated. His right foot suddenly stepped into the void, and the air exploded. The power of time and space condensed under his feet, and as if he had teleported, he disappeared from where he stood. When he reappeared, he was already very close to Wu Wuxian. Zhuowen was no longer afraid. Since the sorcerer tribe had found trouble with him time and time again, they had joined forces with Corpsine Chi and so many other experts to attack him and frame him for violating the rules of the sorcerer god city. Zhuowen could not take this lying down. Although he was afraid of the green-furred mummy and the holy leader of the sorcerer tribe, he had the teleportation site token. If he wanted to leave, he could crush the token and teleport away. If he did not have such a trump card, Zhuowen would not have dared to stay and go against the sorcerer tribe. That would be courting death. But now he was not afraid. He no longer had any worries. Naturally, he wanted to vent his anger. He wanted to let all the experts in the sorcerer god city know that he, Zhuowen, was not someone who could be bullied easily. If anyone dared to bully him, they would have to be prepared to face his wrath. Damn it! Wu Wuxian cursed inwardly when he saw Zhuowen rushing over. He quickly retreated with an ugly expression on his face. Wu Wuxian, do you think you can escape? Zhuowen's cold laughter rang out. Before Wu Wuxian had retreated too far, he had already caught up to him. A fierce gust of wind swept out as his jade-like right arm shot out like a spear, aiming for Wu Wuxian's forehead. Bang! Layers of restrictions appeared a few inches in front of Wu Wuxian's forehead. Like an invisible wall, they blocked Zhuowen's attack. However, Wu Wuxian did not have it easy. The power of the punch was very strong. Although most of the force was absorbed by the restrictions, a small part of it still hit her forehead, causing a small amount of blood to appear between her eyebrows. Wu Wuxian kept retreating while Zhuowen revealed a look of surprise. Wu Wuxian's attainments in the formation Dao weren't weak at all. The moment he'd unleashed his attack, he discovered that Wu Wuxian's entire body was protected by powerful restrictions. This layer of restriction covered Wu Wuxian's body like an invisible armor. It helped her block most of the attack. You're courting death. Wu Wuxian was also enraged. She had been shocked by Zhuowen's battle results, so she felt like she had won without a fight. But now, Zhuowen's attack did not break her restriction defense. This made her feel a lot more at ease. She knew that she was just mentally burdened, causing her aura to weaken. Wu Wuxian calmed down and lashed out with the scepter in his hand. Suddenly, the surrounding space and time seemed to have frozen. The pressure around Zhuowen instantly became countless times more terrifying, making his limbs feel as if they were filled with lead. His movements became slow, as if he was moving in slow motion. Bang! Chapter 3381. Ownerless City Bang. Zhuowen fell to the ground, creating a huge crater. Smoke and dust filled the air, obscuring one's vision. Wu Wuxian heaved a sigh of relief. She realized that she had overestimated Longwen. Longwen wasn't that powerful. Looks like he's about to run out of energy after fighting so many mighty figures. Wu Wuxian thought to herself. Wu Wuxian's thoughts were shared by many experts of other races. They also felt that Zhuowen had expended too much energy in the battle just now, which was why Wu Wuxian had easily pushed him back. Humph. Longwen, do you think you're a match for me in your current state? Today, I'll kill you as a sacrifice to the many comrades who died. Wu Wuxian snorted coldly and landed not far from the pit. She waved her jade-like hand, summoning array flags one after another. She began to set up a peerless killing array around the pit. She intended to kill Zhuowen with this array. However, the moment she set up the embryonic form of the array, a terrifying force rose from beneath her feet. Wu Wuxian decisively threw away the array flags and kicked off the ground, intending to leave this place. Rumble! A palm suddenly shot out from the ground and grabbed Wu Wuxian's foot with extreme speed. Then a person broke out of the ground. It was Zhuowen. Zhuowen gripped Wu Wuxian's jade-like foot tightly. His right hand suddenly exerted strength. His arm was translucent, and his strength was boundless. He ruthlessly threw Wu Wuxian onto the ground. Pucci! Wu Wuxian spat out a mouthful of blood, her face pale. She was shocked and angry. Longwen, you're so cunning. You were just pretending. Zhuowen sneered and exerted more force with his right hand. Wu Wuxian was once again thrown to the ground, coughing up blood. If I didn't create some illusion for you, why would you take the initiative to fight me? Zhuowen sneered and threw Wu Wuxian to the ground with even more force. Wu Wuxian's body was covered with a powerful restrictive power. Although it helped her block most of the power, there was still a small amount of energy that directly hit her body, causing her to be seriously injured and constantly vomiting blood. Zhuowen frowned. The restrictive spells around Wu Wuxian were not weak and were difficult to deal with. If he wanted to break them, it would take a lot of effort. Thinking of this, Zhuowen stopped his swinging motion and grabbed Wu Wuxian's right palm, bursting with terrifying black flames. This was the undying shaman fire. Its burning power was terrifying. It was a combination of the undying birds and Zhurong's flames. The quality of its flames even surpassed the undying bird's flames. It could burn everything. Sure enough, as soon as the immortal wizard fire appeared, the restrictive power around Wu Wuxian was immediately burned violently and weakened. It began to show signs of collapse. What kind of flame is this? Wu Wuxian was terrified. She already understood that this Longwen's strength was very terrifying. She was completely not his match. If this continued, she might die in the hands of this Longwen. At the same time that Zhuowen released the immortal wizard fire, he also used the Hong Meng Wuji ultimacy. The Hong Meng Wuji ultimacy was a spell that specialized in breaking restrictive spells. Coupled with Zhuowen's array skills, the restrictive power on Wu Wuxian's surface was being broken faster and faster. Wu Wuxian's face was pale and fear rose in her heart. She was very clear that in less than 15 minutes, the restrictive power on her body would be completely broken. At that time, it would be the time of her death. Longwen, I am the high priest of the sorcerer race. Our holy lord of the sorcerer race is about to come out. Do you dare to kill me? Wu Wuxian mentioned the holy lord of the sorcerer race, hoping to make Zhuowen afraid. Zhuowen's eyes were cold as he said indifferently, If Wu Xinya comes out, that's good. I will kill him and make Sorcerer God City a city without a master. When these disgraceful words came out, the countless foreign race experts in the surroundings were in an uproar. They all discussed spiritedly, thinking that Longwen was simply a fearless madman. Wu Wuxian also revealed a look of despair. Only now did she realize how crazy Longwen was. He was not even afraid of Wu Xinya and had even said that he would kill Wu Xinya. He was simply too audacious. How audacious! You actually want to make Sorcerer God City a city without a master. You are the first person in countless years who dares to say such words. Just as Zhuowen was breaking the restrictive spells on Wu Wuxian's body, A gloomy and majestic voice came from the inner city of Sorcerer God City. The burly holy lord of the sorcerer race, Wu Wuxian, was wearing a purple robe. He slowly walked through the void, step by step. Beside the holy lord of the sorcerer race, Wu Shinya, was a figure wrapped in a black robe. His face could not be seen clearly. Heavens, it's the holy lord! I never thought that even a top expert like the holy lord would be alarmed. Nonsense! This Long One has killed so many experts in Sorcerer God City. If the Holy Lord does not appear, it will be very difficult to resolve this matter. When they saw the purple-robed Holy Lord of the Sorcerer race, Wu Shinya, slowly walking over, all the foreign race experts in Sorcerer God City revealed expressions of fear and respect. The Holy Lord of the Sorcerer race was publicly acknowledged as the strongest expert in the Sorcerer race. His cultivation had reached the peak of the sky-piercing realm. Other than those old monsters who had lived in seclusion, who else could fight with Wu Shinya? As for the black-robed man beside Wu Shinya, everyone subconsciously ignored him. They only paid attention to the radiant Wu Shinya. Zhuowen glanced at Wu Shinya. Then his gaze fell on the black-robed man beside Wu Shinya. His gaze was filled with fear. He felt the aura of the green-furred corpse and did not think that the black-robed man was Green Hat. You are called Longwen, right? You are a genius. Your strength and talent are both excellent. If you let go of the high priest, I will not take your life. I will be lenient with you. As Wu Shinya walked, he looked at Zhuowen with arrogance. Wu Shinya was very confident. He believed that if he appeared, Longwen would be respectful and would not dare to offend him. At the same time, Wu Shinya's heart was filled with anger. This anger was not because Zhuowen had killed so many experts in Sorcerer God City, but because the 3 corpses in the ancestral Sorcerer Wonderland had disappeared. He was furious. He guessed that the 3 corpses were most likely with Longwen. He would not kill Longwen, but he would imprison him in the Sorcerer race's prison for eternity. He would torture him in different ways and make him suffer so much that he would not want to die. Wu Shinya's calm expression was only to calm Longwen down. After all, Wu Wuxian was still in Longwen's hands. If that was not the case, he would have killed Longwen with a palm strike. Zhuowen sneered, as if he did not hear Wu Shinya's words. He continued to use the immortal sorcerer fire to break the restrictions on Wu Wuxian's body. The restrictions on Wu Wuxian's body continued to collapse and eventually disappeared. No! Wu Wuxian's eyes widened as his body was burned by the immortal sorcerer fire. He let out a miserable shriek. You are courting death. Wu Shinya's pupil shrank when he saw Wu Wuxian screaming miserably as he was burned by the undying shaman fire. His previous calm demeanor was long gone. He was both shocked and furious. He suddenly increased his speed and rushed toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen grabbed Wu Wuxian's neck with one hand and quickly retreated. The immortal sorcerer fire started to burn from Wu Wuxian's feet and quickly spread to his body. Wu Wuxian's pupils dilated as he screamed. He watched as his feet turned into ashes, then his body and hands. Chapter 30, 382. Divine arrows fired with his divine ability. As long as Wu Wuxian's divine soul was not destroyed and only her head was left, he could still save her. Zhuowen sneered and threw Wu Wuxian's head to the back with all his might. No! Wu Shinya roared and chased after Wu Wuxian's head with all his might. When Wu Shinya caught up to Wu Wuxian's head, the undying witch fire completely engulfed Wu Wuxian's head. Wu Wuxian's screams came to an abrupt end. Her head was completely burned, and even her divine soul was destroyed. The instant Wu Wuxian's body was destroyed, Witch God City became abnormally quiet, so quiet that it was somewhat strange. All the foreign race experts were silent. They silently watched all of this with expressions of shock and disbelief. They were moved by Zhuowen's boldness. This kid dared to kill the second strongest person of the witch race, Wu Wuxian, in front of the Holy Lord of the witch race. There was no room for discussion. He was too strong and too arrogant. I, Longwen, am a man of my word. I said that if you stop me, I will kill you and make Witch God City a masterless city. I, Longwen, will naturally do my best. Zhuowen's following words caused all the foreign race experts in Witch God City to feel dizzy. This guy was actually spouting nonsense again. Did he really think that Wu Xinya was Wu Wuxian or Corpsine Chuan? Wu Xinya was a peak expert of the sky-piercing realm. He stood at the peak of this heaven domain. This guy was about to die, but he still dared to speak so arrogantly. Of course, this was what most of the foreign race experts thought. However, the black-robed Green Hat did not think so. Green Hat floated on the other side, sizing up Zhuowen. He laughed sinisterly. This kid has really matured. His strength has increased by so much. What a terrifying speed of improvement. After saying this, Zhuowen took out the Ho-E Divine Bow and Ho-E Divine Arrow from the outside world. He knocked the Ho-E Divine Arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring to a full moon. Instantly, a terrifying killing intent flooded the sky above Sorcerer God City. His Pangu's sacred body had evolved again, and his strength had increased tremendously. He was now able to pull the string of Ho-E Divine Bow to its limit and give full play to the power of Ho-E Divine Arrows. When everyone felt the terrifying killing intent, their pupils shrank to the size of needles as fear filled their hearts. Some of the weaker foreign races even knelt on the ground with a plop because they couldn't withstand such a terrifying killing intent. Wu Xinyao also felt this terrifying, murderous aura. He turned around and looked at Zhuowen, who was drawing his bow. The anger in his eyes became even more intense. No wonder you dared to be so arrogant in front of me. So it turns out that you have trump cards like the Ho-E Divine Bow and Ho-E Divine Arrow. However, do you think this kind of divine artifact can hurt me? That's just wishful thinking. Wu Xinya sneered as he rushed toward Zhuowen with a terrifying aura. He wanted to tear apart this kid's body with his own hands and grab his soul. He wanted to make him suffer inhumane torture for eternity to vent the hatred in his heart. Bang! Zhuowen shot out the first Ho-E Divine Arrow without any hesitation. The divine arrow tore through the sky and exploded with a dazzling bloody light. The energy waves formed a huge mushroom cloud in the sky. It was very terrifying. Wu Xinya roared as he punched out. His muscles swelled and his blood energy soared into the sky, forming a huge blood pillar. What made Zhuowen's eyes narrow was that Wu Xinya had actually sent the Ho-E Divine Arrow flying with a single punch. Moreover, he only retreated a few dozen steps before stabilizing himself. As expected of the sorcerer race's holy lord, Wu Xinya's sorcerer body has already reached 9 stars. Combined with his cultivation, he can actually take on the Ho-E Divine Arrow head-on. It's truly inconceivable. Moon Wolf race's patriarch, Yi Taiha, commented in fear. Not only Yi Taiha, the other foreign race experts were also shocked by Wu Xinya's move. Zhuowen was also shocked. Wu Xinya's physical body was terrifyingly strong. He had actually sent the Ho-E Divine Arrow flying with a single punch. Wu Xinya took a deep breath as he forcefully suppressed the surging blood energy in his body. Even though he had only retreated a few dozen steps, he had actually suffered some light injuries from the previous attack. However, he had forcefully suppressed his injuries. He was very angry now and wanted to crush this hateful Long when in front of him with an overwhelming force. In his opinion, this kid only had one Ho-E Divine Arrow at most. After sending one flying, this kid had no other trump cards left. It would be very easy for him to take down this kid. Longwen, do you only have these little tricks? In front of me, these are all trash. Today, just obediently send yourself to death. Wu Xinya attacked again. His speed was extremely fast, and he exploded in the sky with a terrifying sound. Wherever he passed, space would distort and collapse. It was a terrifying aura. At this moment, Zhuowen revealed a trace of a smile on his face. Behind him, a pair of huge illusory eyes appeared. The moment he shot the Hou-Yi divine arrow, he had used the torch dragon's eyes. The torch dragon's eyes could see through all illusions. Just now, when Wu Xinya had taken the Hou-Yi divine arrow head-on, he had sensed through the torch dragon's eyes that Wu Xinya had suffered some light injuries. "Are you looking down on me? You will be in big trouble." Zhuowen sneered. He took out another Hou-Yi godly arrow, pulled the bowstring to a full moon, and released the bowstring. With a bang, the Hou-Yi godly arrow shot out again, aiming straight for Wu Xinya's vital point. With the torch dragon's eyes, Zhuowen's combination with the Hou-Yi divine arrow was simply flawless. He could instantly determine the opponent's weak points and shoot out a fatal blow. Wu Xinya's pupils shrank. He didn't expect Zhuowen to have Hou-Yi divine arrows. He let out a low roar and punched out, knocking away the second Hou-Yi divine arrow. On the other hand, Wu Xinya was forced back 30 to 40 steps. His breathing became ragged. Zhuowen naturally wouldn't give Wu Xinya a chance to rest. He took out the third and fourth Hou-Yi divine arrow and shot it out. Bang! Wu Xinya roared. He didn't dare to take it head-on with his physical body anymore. He took out his divine artifact. Wu Xinya's divine artifact was a long saber. The saber surface was covered with strange and dense patterns. It was filled with an ancient aura. Wu Xinya raised the saber and blocked the two Hou-Yi divine arrows. However, as he blocked the arrows, he continued to retreat. He had underestimated his opponent too much and had already suffered some injuries. Now, blocking the two Hou-Yi divine arrows aggravated his injuries. Whoosh! 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 The moment Wu Xinya blocked the two Hou-Yi divine arrows, Zhuowen shot out 3 Hou-Yi divine arrows. The 3 arrows tore through the air and drew 3 beautiful arcs in the air before landing in front of Wu Xinya. "Damn it! How does this guy have so many Hou-Yi divine arrows?"